Welcome, everybody, to yet again another wonderful episode of the Break the Rules live stream. I'm your host, Lev Polyakov, at LevPo on Twitter, and we are here to talk about the seed oils, the sneed oils, as well as the businesses behind the seed oils. What exactly does it mean in the grand scheme of things as far as the alliances people are making right now, the products they support, the people they support? I feel like there's a purity spiral in the way in a lot of these different things, as well as maybe some healthy skepticism. So whatever's going to happen happens today, but everybody, like I said before, has to speak respectfully, criticize the ideas, and not belittle the person, because I think we're all the hand puppets of God at the end of the day. So with that being said, I want to introduce the guests today. So we have the seed oil disrespecter, aka Dr. K, joining us here in the red shirt. We have got Sigma Sensei joining us in the black shirt above there, in the robe, or whatever that is.
Robe.
Yes.
Right.
Then we got James finally back in BTR.
I know you all miss me. I'm finally black. I can say it. I'm allowed to say
Oh boy.
Back in black.
Well, me and James have the similar ethnicity that we're brothers
Exactly.
in disguise.
Judging from that hat, I don't think you're Italian, Gio.
No, people have said Orthodox Turk, so there you go. That's that energy to it.
Identifying as a cockroach, understood.
Oh, James, that is so cold.
Listen, it's Byzantium. It's not Istanbul, okay? Screw that. Anyways.
Yeah, enough Istanbul shit. Let's get into the main topic of discussion today. So, okay, seed oils. First, just to get us started, Dr. K, for those who were living under a rock, what is all this business about seed oils? Just guide us through that first, and then we're going to get into the elephant in the room controversy.
Sure. So I made seed oil disrespecter, I think I don't know if it's exactly 6 months ago or almost, because it was October of last year, sitting in this exact spot on my couch. I've given the story a million times, so I want to make sure I give it quick. But I got into paleo like almost 15 years ago from folks like Rob Wolf, Paleo Solution, and Mark Sisson, and some of those other folks. And the big things that they were talking about were like vegetable oil, gluten, dairy, and all these things, and how certain people can have bad effects with that stuff. That put me down. It was one of the main things that put me down a path to eventually becoming a doctor. Like as soon as I learned what autoimmunity was, like celiac disease or hypothyroidism or a lot of these things, it was in my early to mid 20s at the time. And I just, went down a rabbit hole that just wouldn't stop. And when I started med school in my early 30s, I was just way too busy for that world anymore. So I unplugged for a long time. My YouTube algorithm was not nutrition videos. It was like, philosophy and video games. And I plugged back in last summer. And with my current medical knowledge, if you were to ask me a few years ago, what's wrong? I'd go, try something like the Whole30, try an elimination diet. And, seed oils, they oxidize easily, right? And I knew some things, but I went from like 0 to 60 real fast because I was already primed for a long time. And I realized that it's something that it's not just a matter of something oxidizing in a pan. It's something that builds up in your body. And, I can more easily understand what these toxic metabolites become and what they do in your brain. And you can almost pick an organ system and see how an oxidative load leads to disruption, whether you're talking about your skin or your brain or your eye or your pancreas or anything. It's fascinating. And the main culprit, the main place that we're getting this excess polyunsaturated fats is from vegetable oil, seed oils, and some other gray area stuff that we tried to educate. So I noticed that people on the internet were using the phrase seed oil. Like years ago, I would have said industrial seed oils. I noticed within the last year or so that was happening more. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like not just health people are saying this. And I also noticed the trend of people saying like, I'm a hiking enjoyer or a, gardening respecter. And I just combined the two and made the Twitter account. And in like 24 hours, I had 1,000 followers. And I was like, oh shit, like that must be because people are like, oh, I'm a seed oil disrespecter too. And I just made the memes and 6 months later, 40,000 followers.
Here we
So
are.
yeah, so that's
Excellent.
the prime of me. So that might seem insane to a lot of people. So I want to answer any questions, and but that's the basics of like where I came from and making the account.
Excellent. So before we get
So
into it,
we have
I
a
just
wide
wanted to
range
say,
of people here. We have
yes, we do.
Yeah,
seed oil
right.
disrespectors. I, of course, am a victim of seed oils, but we'll get
We can tell.
Oh, James, you
Quite
bastard!
obvious.
How dare you! I'm leaving the stream right now.
Now, James, you
Gio
are
wakes up in the morning and he snorts a fat line of fucking
Listen,
vegetable
I'm gonna
oil.
change my
No.
handle.
Granola blend.
Seed oil maxer. That's gonna be my new handle.
Hey,
But so, anyways,
well,
for those
James,
who don't know, on a
yeah.
serious note, seed oils. What exactly is the mechanism that produces excessive inflammation throughout most major organs in seed oils? Like, what is the exact science of it? Oh, did I cut you off, Lev? Shit, I'm sorry. Or did you want to ask? Yeah, sorry.
No, go for it. What is the mechanism?
Well, so it's excess polyunsaturated fatty acids that are can be oxidized before they in the bottle, in the pan, and in your body, and that's an extra. This is a huge rabbit hole. There's a lot here, but for the folks listening, it's an oxidative load, and you can go down that and see how it does things like affect the structure of proteins. You can see how it affects the structure of membrane walls, like the walls of your mitochondria, for instance, how it could damage DNA, how it can, and those cellular functions. It's like a rusty engine. It's not the exact same thing as rust, but you add oxygen to metal and things don't work as well. I mean, chemists their minds are going to explode while I say this, but it helps the layman understand this. And I'm actually looking for, I'm a resident right now, at least for the next 3 months. And I'm looking forward to having more time to delve more into the science. I read through it and I'm like, holy shit, I've read about this years ago. Now I'm catching myself back up, but I'm not a subject matter expert. I am not going to sit here and off the top of my head give you 15 studies, but I know people that are, and I talk with them frequently. That's one thing I think I've tried to do is like not pretend like I'm someone that I'm not. Like with Bitcoin, like this blew up in the Bitcoin world and people are like, hey, how long have you been into Bitcoin? I'm like, I'm not. Like, I just bought my first Bitcoin 2 weeks ago. I wish I bought it, a long time ago, but I didn't. And I'm looking forward to more resources out there too, not just people on Twitter, but other scientists as well. We're working on resources to aggregate and put things together, and that's going to be pretty exciting.
Well, let's open it up to Sigma Sensei as far as the thing that people are talking about right now in relation to this company that people found on Twitter and what exactly they see the connection there being. So Sigma, take it away.
Yeah, so it looks like I think without getting into like too much of the minutia on the science, because we don't really know much about right now what the product is. I don't know if you know much about like any of the pharmacokinetics, what it's made of, what the manufacturing is. I saw some stuff, that may carry over from one of the producers, CEOs had an industrial, I think it was like oil production company. And so there were some accusations there, but we really don't seem to know much about what it is. And so that's kind of the more concerning thing, I think, at face value, where you give support, like in an industry where you're obviously being skeptic of like any new product coming off the curtails of a fad, whether or not the fad, it should be supported or not, right? I mean, you can go back, like when I was a kid, obviously the food pyramid was in every textbook everywhere. And that was kind of my big rabbit hole in the medical sphere, where, the medical industry is not this immutable force that can't make mistakes. And I mean, I've experimented with a lot of different diets, whether it was you know, in the bodybuilding scene, they're sort of the most stringent of the, you know, diet gurus, because, you know, it's such a delicate art. So that's where I came to my obsession with diet and, you know, what goes in. But, you know, we don't really know much about the 0 Acre project. You know, I can't really give a take pharmacologically or, you know, on the production, because I don't think we know much about what it is. And so I don't see the point of giving it like support out of the gate. Like I saw it appeared you gave it some support out of the gate as an alternative. But, you know, for someone like me, I would want to wait for quite a bit until there's quite a bit more data on it.
Well, let's back up a second. What exactly is this product, and how does it connect to seed oil disrespecter?
Sure. So I released the DMs. Anthony Gustin, who's been involved in this from the beginning, that I've learned, he DM'd me on my former account, because this was known that it was an alternative account for mine until it got so big that I just spent all my time on it. And he wanted to talk to me, and I didn't really engage him very much for like 6 weeks or something. I don't know. I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was October and then November. And then finally he told me like what they're doing. Like, we have an oil company where we're making low omega-6 oils. And I'm like, okay. So I slow walked finding out more about it. And eventually how he got my attention was he told me that people that have been on the record about this stuff for a long time are involved. I'm like, okay, so Dr. Kate Shanahan's involved. I'm like, okay, you know, I've learned more now that I've delved back into the seed oil world. I can see that she has, I think she wrote for Western A. Price Foundation and back in 2006. She has Deep Nutrition that's been, I think it was originally published in 2008, where she talks about vegetable oil. And I'm like, okay, so she is an advisor. I think she's a science advisor technically. I'm like, okay, she doesn't think it's poison. I'm like, all right, well, that's enough for me to go, okay, I want to look at this a little more. Then I find out Tucker Goodrich, who has been blogging about this since 2010, and he comes from the paleo world. And he's been on the record about omega-6 and about these oils and about the problem in our food supply. So for me, it's about the whole reason why I went down this rabbit hole and became a doctor was because I was so fascinated by how food can be the cause of disease, right? It's fascinating. It's not just genes. It's not just something esoteric, but how it can be the environment, right? Or a major thing being food. And the fact that these folks have been on the record and that they're interested in this, that's enough for me to trust it until verification. You know, and what I find interesting about these folks too is that they are willing to, I assume, because they've said this, once this is out, and this is not, I'm under the impression this is not a bottle you're going to buy at Whole Foods. This is going to be something that maybe restaurants are using at first. But they're going to say, test it, and you can see what's in it. You can see how much of this fatty acid's in it and how much of this fatty acid's in it. And that's kind of their play, is that they're like, you know, put the cards on the table and see what's in the oil, because the oil adulteration that's out there, like you can go out and buy a bottle of avocado oil and it's like all grapeseed. You can go to a restaurant and they'll be like, oh, this is olive oil. It's 1% olive oil. It is insane. And I'm not an expert on the laws, but I think they even changed the laws in 2020 to make it even worse, where they label things terribly. And their point is on the, you know, the identification thing is like, you can test it. Like, you know, we are a low omega-6. And so to summarize, I'm because people want to know what my connection is now, because I've branded the opposition against what they're against. I think the reason why they reached out to me was because they didn't want me dragging them. So they were like, okay, we want to tell this guy what we're doing. So they came to me, they told me who's involved, and they gave me the option to invest in the future. They didn't pay me any money, but I have an option to get stock in the future. And yeah, I do. And I would do. What's up?
It's just a little pun there. You're in a seed round as a.
I know. Yeah, I've already gotten that. Someone's used that joke like 10 times on me.
Oh, sorry.
So I would do this if someone emailed me and said I have a tallow. First of all, I have no money to invest. I would have put stock in Buffalo Wild Wings 6 months ago if I had money to invest, which I will later this year.
Well, we all know Buffalo Wild Wings was paying you until they recently didn't, which is why you disavow them. Like that's like, come on, common knowledge.
So
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
the reason why I did the disavow thing is that they on their website were talking about a location that's using soybean oil, and then someone DM'd me and said that in certain parts of Canada they're using soybean oil. So the crown, which was impeccable, was not impeccable anymore. So I want people thinking about the oils that are in their food, and not just that, but is it real? Like that's the basics.
But as far as this product goes, people have been saying that it's even more artificial than the seed oils. Is there legitimacy to what they're talking about
Well,
there?
essentially, they're claiming that the sort of more right of center. Oh, what am I talking about? Far right sort of a health sphere is being quote unquote infiltrated by feds and so forth. That there's a vested interest.
Well, that's like a whole other layer to the rabbit hole, which we can get
Yeah.
into. But just so we keep it in this sphere right now, what exactly, I don't know, James or Sigma, what exactly are the allegations of what this stuff is?
So I don't even know what this stuff is. Like I have not like seen anything that like even says what this stuff is. It just seems like another fake oil that claims to be better than, all these seed oils and whatnot. And, I feel like instead of advocating for whatever this is, until it's actually out on the market and there's enough research on it, like I don't understand why advocate for that instead of just, healthy animal fats, or extra virgin olive oil and shit like that. So
all right. So allegedly it's that, they've got a big fixation on the proprietary protection. So we don't know a whole lot about how it's going to be made, but it's supposed to be like a fermented oil, like a proprietary microbe that's basically fermented. And so, yeah, I would say my main concern, I don't like harsh upfront marketing. I don't really like, I thought I saw like that famous cooking star chef, upfront. Let's get down to the basis of my argument with why we need a lot more studies is let's even just poke a hole in part of the seed oil thing, which I agree. I don't think seed oils are good for the same reasons you don't think they're good. And I don't recommend them. And I do see a giant farce in the cooking oil industry, being mostly grapeseed oil when it's olive oil and whatnot. Yeah, exactly. From my personal research doesn't really come more from the diet and as it does the drug manufacturing. And so what I mean by that is you have like a laundry list of drugs that we suspend in these oils, right? Usually it's cottonseed oil or grapeseed oil, MCT oil, and then they put an ester in it or a conjugate base of acetic acid, which would be like an acetate ester for these injectable drugs. And so my research in the last few years over carrier oils has been based on like the inflammation. Sorry. Hopefully I don't have the COVID, but I was just in Vegas.
COVID's fake, so you're fine.
Whoa, James, already on YouTube, your anniversary, and you're going to get this thing.
I say this on my podcast all the time, and I'm fine.
You're going to get us all pinched.
It might have just been like the 4-day binger, that did me under, but I've been like super under the weather.
Have you been snorting seed oils?
When you say binge, are you talking about alcohol or seed oils?
Yeah, little do they know that there's a threshold dose of seed oils where it becomes hallucinogenic. And so if you really want to have a good time, you just got to inject like 3 cc's of grapeseed oil and you'll be having a great time.
The Reddit people know what's going on.
Yeah, you'll actually be teleported to the whole Sneed's Feed and Seed location where you'll get to meet Seed and Chuck, and it'll be great.
So anyway, to tie up my there's a seed oil that actually does seem to reduce inflammation, and that would be castor oil. And the relevant experiments that have been done is that in these esterified drugs that are injectable, and it could be any number of them, where that's just the carrier oil, not the active ingredient. So like ingredients aside, castor oil is it's mostly what's it called, ricinoleic acid, I think is what it's called. So the compound ricinoleic acid in castor oil is shown to reduce inflammation, and when compared against non-seed oil they've used as for these esterified drugs, that's actually like lower HCRP, lower inflammatory markers, so like less systemic inflammation.
Did you say oleic acid?
No, not linoleic acid. I think it's ricinoleic.
Oh, okay.
Is what castor. I think that's the component of castor oil that's found to have anti-inflammatory properties. And my whole point about this is just that there's a seed oil that now I don't recommend using castor oil for cooking and whatnot. I don't know the burn point. I don't know how well
it's good for hair growth and stuff.
Yeah, and that's even another thing is they showed at least even in the HRT community that when they were suspending these pharmacy grade raws in castor oil, the viscosity was bad, so the injections was why they didn't do it, because it was slow and painful to put into a syringe for these various medications. But what they found were two things: is lower high reactive CRP, right? So that's like a pretty good proxy for systemic inflammation if you get your blood work done. Interleukin 8 is another one, which is more about nervous system inflammation, but they showed lower levels of that, but they threw it out the door because they were like, okay, well, this is really painful and more expensive to use for these injections. So I guess my overall point is just that there's some interesting outlier cases that we just wouldn't suspect would happen. Usually you inject anything, local inflammation is going to go up, systemic inflammation is going to go up. If you have a solvent, even when they used, I think it was like glycol, a very dangerous solvent for these medications, inflammation went down with that. And so I'm just saying, I'm really a big skeptic until I even if it is anecdotal. I mean, I get a lot of anecdotal stuff from these clinics, but I take some of it to heart because you don't really know who you can trust, and obviously the data is good to see when it comes, but I don't really understand supporting anything just on like merit of who's in it, because I think money talks. Nobody knows that better than me in this business. It's pretty much I think everybody's got an agenda. I'm not against making a living, and I believe you should take care of your own. And, if you have a family, you have a spouse, you want to care for them, you want to make a business, I have nothing against that.
Well, at the time, I was actually thinking, because this is before we started selling shopping guides, I was thinking, I'm just going to burn out on this shit and stop doing it. So if I just get involved with even something tangential, I'm going to still care about this and not go, this is a hassle. Now, not too long after that, my wife starts selling these shopping guides, and this turns into something where we didn't even know there would be a big interest in that. And from the very beginning, this was not just, how can we get advanced people to be more advanced? This was like, how do you get your mom to make a good change in her diet, or your dad or whatever, like people who are not on Twitter, right? You send them a meme. Oh, it starts the conversation. And then that's why we're doing these shopping guides. I have patience, and I talk to him now. My elevator speech on nutrition has changed. It used to be more elimination diet stuff, and now I just think they need to raise their disrespect for seed oils. And I know that this if I was not involved in this, I would have muted the word seed, oil, and disrespecter a long time ago.
Well, I don't think people are against any of these aspects of what you're talking about. I think that everybody's with you there. The only question is how much trust. And I know you mentioned that doctor that how much trust can you actually put into that product in order to put yourself behind it?
Okay, so I would say that a person talking about how things should be tested and we should know what's in it. If whenever this product is out, I don't know, because I don't know the timeline here. If this is tested and we're like, this is crap, well, then the cards are on the table and I'm the guy talking about it, and I'll be like, hey, that's not my thing, because I'm saying test it.
But why not wait until those tests are done before saying anything about it?
Because I trust the people that are doing it. And, the people talking about this kind of stuff led me down the rabbit holes to become a doctor.
Now, I know you trust the people behind this, but my big issue is the venture capitalists behind this, who have spoken out against using real meat. Here's a tweet from here's a tweet from venture capitalist Chris Sacca, who's funding Zero Acres, saying there's no reason that meat needs to have eyes, hooves, a ton of land, endless water, and efficient digestion that burps deadly greenhouse gases. And then other venture capitalists behind Zero Acres, Seth Bannon, posting something from CNN. One of America's oldest and largest milk producers filed for bankruptcy. He's like, bye-bye. The days of using animals as production technology for milk and meat and leather and other products is coming to an end. The next decade, we will see a rise of more sustainable, healthy, and humane ways of making the food we love. So if the people that are backing this are anti, using animals and animal products, I feel like that only spells disaster for Zero Acres, because that has seemed to be the case with pretty much any vegan product. I feel like every time I walk out of the subway and I see the big Oatly billboard and I'm wearing my fucking sunglasses, I feel like I'm in They Live. So,
well, it's funny with Oatly as an example, because Oatly explicitly from day one had these sort of like postmodern avant-garde, very Gen X.
They make fun of themselves.
Campaigns.
They make fun of themselves for being such a
hipster
hipster
the one in
brand.
the early 2000s they did, but then what happened was on the internet, especially on Twitter, they sort of did these like weird avant-garde, like, we know you hate us, so we're feeding into it. So they would get like the attention of right-wing anons. My good friend Zero HP Lovecraft, a friend of the show, viciously attacked them. I believe Breast Milk Enjoyer, another good friend of mine, viciously attacked them. But it seems that the strategy that people are saying is that this Acres company, they're almost doing the opposite, where they're sort of trying to ingratiate themselves with people who are more health conscious, people who are more on the like dissident, quote unquote, side of the spectrum. But then behind the scenes, the worry is that these guys are like vegan hardcore, they don't jive with the messaging. So
the people I'm familiar with are Anthony Gustin, who contacted me and told me about his past, and who's it? Jeffrey Knobs, who has some restaurants around San Francisco. I think he's the CEO. But these are new guys to me, and I'm not familiar. The track record of Dr. Kate Shanahan and the track record of Tucker Goodrich, who have been able to look into it deeper. If this ends up being, if this is tested and this is, if there's a poison pill in there somewhere, then that's crap. And then people aren't going to want it. Just like, oh, I'm starting an olive oil company. Okay. And then you get it tested and you're like, hey, this doesn't look like olive oil, and that's it. It's real simple. I want to say about them raising money. From what I've been told, they raised this, that the environmental aspect was a selling point because of the inputs. This is not something that requires, it's like in the name, Zero Acre. It doesn't require the same, amount of land and everything. So for them to raise money, that's a selling point for them. And when I was talking to Anthony about that, I said, in a way, it looks like you tricked the giant. You can't just punch Cyclops in the eye, and it's like they were able to, under my impression, of course, to be determined, I haven't tested it, that's not what I do, but they were able to make something that is high in good fats and low in bad fats, and do it with money.
Hopefully.
Oh yes, exactly. No, like, yes, please test it. I want University of X, Y, and Z to test it. But they were able to raise it based off of, the fact that it's not going to require the same input, that it's not going to require the same amount of, environmental concern.
Well, if I were to put on my madman hat for a second here and imagine myself in the boardroom, if we're talking about attracting people who are from more of this contrarian, very online circle, Pepe the Frog and all that, then it seems like they would be more hesitant, at least as far as I see the kind of influences that are around, encouraging the slonking of raw eggs, things closer to the earth. I think they'd be more hesitant to go for anything, even if you tell them, like, look, guys, this is good, I can show you the graphs and the data. They'll be like, nope. I'm still just, I'm just going to buy this butter, grass-fed butter. I'm going to buy this lard over here. Like, why should I inquire into something if I already have all these things? So if I were to be John Hamm over here, like, why would this be the target audience? That's what I don't understand.
And before you get to that real quick, one thing I did want to point out, a tweet from Get a Raw Milk, who unfortunately couldn't be here because he declined. Which I don't know why, since if he's so convinced that seed oil disrespecter has evil intentions, he would want to come on and further, validate his point. But besides that, he tweeted out co-founder Gustin, who I suspect here is to disarm the pro meat crowd by putting a keto bro up front, had Zero Acre Farms in his title on the Future of Fat websites. This was scrubbed as the event neared. He claimed ignorance when I confronted him. He has since removed Zero Acre Farms from his bio as well, which just seems very suspicious there.
What was that? What happened?
Anthony Gustin, he had Zero Acre Farms in his title on the Future of Fat website. And as the event was neared, it was scrubbed from his bio and has since been removed from his bio.
I think he did one of the presentations.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was on the presentation for Future of Fat, but he had on it that he was a co-founder of Zero Acre Farms, and right before the event, he removed that part from his bio. So it just, it seems fishy that he removed that, because it seemed like he didn't want to be associated with, co-founding this, because, there's probably something suspicious behind this whole company in general.
I don't know.
It's like it almost has, since we do have an audience of Pepe's, it seems like a 2017 ICO where they have all these like suited, I'm on the team and I'm on the team and I'm on the team and we're all good people. And it just feels like vaporware. You have nothing to show us yet. And it's, anytime it's like, you want to get in our raise round, and we're promising this, trust me, we've got this going. It just smells off to me. I couldn't ethically make a big investment in anything like that without knowing more about it. It doesn't seem like we're going to find out, today.
I think they reached out to me so that I wouldn't, drag them before learning more. So,
but have they given you any personal information outside of what the public can access? Have they given you, any insight on to what they're building? Because that's pretty normal, even in this business, is for them to kind of let you speculate on their roadmap before, what's going on or how production is going to work. What are their
the information they told me was numbers on the fatty acid composition.
Right, but we both know that it doesn't just boil down to, well, obviously the omega-6 aspect of it is the big blanket part, but there are other components of these larger fat matrices that have different effects. And so with plenty of fats where it's not just about how much omega-6 there is. And so that's where I don't even see from a chemistry standpoint how hard it might be to manufacture something that isn't, you ferment something and you synthesize this low omega-6 fat. It doesn't seem like a large undertaking, but the rest of it maybe I don't know what their bottom line is. I don't know what.
Yeah, I told them that, because I'm a marketing guy. I'm just making memes, and I'm going against the people that they're going against.
Yeah.
And I was like, you need to. I was like, I'm telling people to not eat seed oils, right, because of how it's made. I was like, you're gonna have to tell people how it's made.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the ingredients in this? What are the ingredients in this?
I don't know.
So
I don't have all those details.
Okay, so you're essentially shilling for a product that you don't know the ingredients of just based off of the people.
I haven't sold anything for them yet.
No, I know you haven't sold anything.
I'm just not dragging them and going after them.
I feel like you should.
It's just to you.
Yeah, I feel like this is if your whole thing is disrespecting seed oils, and I know you've been doing this for 15 years, I don't think you're lying about that. I saw the Facebook screen cap of like 9 years ago and shit like that. And I totally believe you on that front, but it just is very weird to be like, oh, I trust some of these people on it. I'm going to, help market this this product that I don't know the ingredients for.
But I'm not really doing anything for them yet. I'm just not dragging them. I retweeted some of their stuff, like, because they want people to check them out.
But you just said you were marketing, and
how do we define marketing though?
I told them that they need to let people know how it's made. Because
no, this is what I mean. This is the essence of guerrilla marketing. I feel like to get anons. Well, you're not an anon, you're a semi-anon, but like to get people with a sort of reputation on Twitter that has a niche. I mean, whether or not that's ethical or not, whether or not, it's the same problem that people have with outsider art, for instance. I mean, it's like, is it exploitation or is it leading into stickier ethical questions of how you market a product, even like before it hits market shelves?
Right.
And also, not that this is proof of anything, but it is kind of, this tweet that you made was kind of weird where someone said, gonna be crazy when this whole seed oil thing turns out to be a viral marketing campaign for Buffalo Wild Wings. And then you replied, or 0 Acre Farms with a gif of Walt White saying, you got me.
I've been following them and Anthony Gustin for months. Like I haven't hid that fact. I thought people noticed. I thought people noticed that months ago.
I think the thing is also though that like people weren't really looking into this until Raw Milk actually like made a bigger post about it yesterday. Not everyone is gonna see the 0 Acre stuff.
I did.
I saw the 0 Acre stuff like months ago, and I didn't really look into it that much. Compared to and I've been seeing your posts on the timeline. I've been seeing you following you
which is again, like, to be devil's advocate, how powerful of a guerrilla marketing campaign would this really be, considering the fact that most people on that side of Twitter wouldn't even bother looking at anything like 0 Acres to begin with.
For sure, but also I've seen other people say it's like, oh, well, Seed Oil Disrespecter only made his account 6 months ago. He just hopped on this bandwagon. Other people have been doing it for years. And it's like, it's like, but like, who cares? Yeah. But for that point right there, I say to the people who say, who the fuck cares? Because let's say worst case scenario, you are a shill for these people or whatnot, or you've lied or whatever. Worst case scenario to please these people. Yeah. You've still done good, no matter what.
Thank you.
I've my friend Mel, Butter Respecter, she goes by these days, and Tiger Lily Harvest on Instagram. Yeah. Good friend of mine, been on MK Ultra Money, and she's the one that first taught me about seed oils. This was back in July of last year, and I learned about that. And I saw it more from you, and then I slowly started, I think in November, being conscious of it, and then now it's been, I think around like 2 months. I've like pretty much like 95% cut it out around there. So, from all the posting that you do and, Mel does and Effina, who's just joined us.
Welcome,
and,
Effina.
Plenty of other people has helped. And, because of that, I've been able to spread the word more. So, no matter what, at the end of the day, you've still done good.
Yeah.
But there are other like wild accusations in that thread. I don't know if you wanted to go into them.
Sure. Why not? Why not? Let's just throw it all on the floor.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of them were kind of, I guess, personal.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
okay, not the
actually, no, very
personal,
curious.
not the
But-
personal ones,
Yeah,
but
no,
anything.
I saw.
Okay, you wanted to avoid that.
I saw
Yeah,
some personal accusations with no proof that had nothing to do with the seed
Yeah.
oils, which was clearly just made up.
No, I'm
So-
talking more like any government conspiracies, anything of that nature. What are some of the juicy ones having to do with anything of that nature?
Oh
'Cause
yeah,
I think,
the glowy one is an ever-present sort of specter upon the right wing. I think that's probably the obvious. I'd have to pull it up, but yeah, it was. Well, but that always comes around. That's a sort of
Yeah.
perennial thing.
yeah,
the
what are you
vax
gonna do?
photo,
That
you mean?
activation. Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know. Like James said, I don't really see any reason for people on this side to go for something like that. And despite, well, actually, I was the one that said that. But what James said that I agree with is there is a lot of great things that you did. There's a lot of great things that Dr. Weston Price did back in the day to to make people pay attention to this. And I think that a lot of these details are never going to take anything away from that. I just think that people have become so paranoid that anything threatens the circle. And I could understand where that paranoia comes from. People want to be in the community. I mean, in a way, it's weird. Like, I consider myself a classic liberal, and I'm within communities that I completely disagree with as far as their political opinions.
As you've made abundantly
as I've made
clear.
abundantly clear. While at the same time, though, I do respect the energy, because I think that there is a particular kind of energy. I don't know if you would call it 4chan energy or whatever the hell you want to call it, but there is something to these very interconnected people that create visual imagery that says a lot more than any grouping of words can. And I think that people are going to, jump into that, whether it's to shill, whether it's out of genuine appreciation for it, because there is something special about it. And as long as they give something towards the people that are listening, then that's already great. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I would also like to point out here, I can't say for sure, but I did see something from Get Raw Milk that was suspicious on his end. And he was quote tweeting someone that said that Seed Oil Disrespector was doing good, going on some stuff about energy and bait and switch. And then his reply saying, or me catching hints that these people were building a restaurant finder back in January. Didn't know what they were up to, but didn't like the vibe. I blitzed dev on local fats, beat them to the market by 2 days, and ate their lunch. Which I can only assume he's talking about seed oil free restaurants, which as far as I'm aware, especially telling by the post, is not you. And Local Fats is a site that does the same thing. Seed Oil Restaurants is one to find restaurants that don't use seed oils, and then Local Fats is a site to find places that use animal fats. So from that tweet alone, it did seem like he had some ulterior motive to be doing research because he doesn't like competition for his site.
Yeah, and I don't want to mind read, but it's on the timeline. I've shared about Shire app because the creator behind Shire app has messaged me, and we're friends, and that is another way to get raw milk. It's another way to connect with farms, and I've talked about that in interviews and shared it on the timeline. So is that raw milk? So hey, I've actually never had raw milk before. I'm not even a big milk drinker. So
well, Lake House is in Wisconsin, so it's not hard to find here.
Yeah,
I just have to drive down the road. I get that. Yeah. I like that business model. I don't know if he makes much money from it or how, but it seems to be more. It's a good service. That just talking on the raw milk thing, but I find that I like the raw milk a lot better, and the science does seem to be pretty sound there. I think with the enzymes not being denatured and more soluble fat, and anecdotally, I've driven a lot of people in the fitness and bodybuilding scene away from regular milk, and a lot of bodybuilders don't drink milk. I've turned a few onto it, and then I've said, hey, check your CRP before, check it after. or are you intolerant? See how bad you get if you get any allergic reactions, gastrointestinal, issues, anything like that. And they seem to have gone full, a full 180. You can even find like raw A2 now.
Yeah. I've had some raw A2. There's a farm I really like called Miller's Bio Farm in Lancaster County, and they produce, raw milk, raw cheese. For some reason, the raw kefir, they have to label it as for pets only. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's like their
Well,
loophole.
Kefir's my favorite probiotic for sure. At least as far as pass-through probiotics go, I like raw kefir the best.
Mm.
Well,
But,
there was other.
yeah.
Speaking of finding, using animal products, finding a way around it when it comes to certain medications for certain communicable diseases, like we shan't mention on YouTube. There
See,
was-
that's how you should do it. James, take notes. Take a
There
lesson.
was another accusation that you are pro sacrament. That's what we call it on BTR. And I know, like on
Pro
in our
sacrament.
spaces, that's sort of a
Yeah.
big deal.
What does pro sacrament mean?
James, it's the word you
oh.
can't say. It's the B word you can't say.
Yeah,
Oh, the
Okay,
vaccine.
James. Please.
Motherfucker.
Please, James. I beg.
I've never heard anyone call it the sacrament before.
I popularized that.
I hear people call it the jab. I don't watch BTR except the episodes I'm on. Come on.
Oh, damn! Wow, that was cool. That was a huge neck. Right? Anyways,
that should be
Jab.
oh my god,
that should be the quote.
Yeah.
I only watch
Yeah.
episodes of BTR that I'm on. James Healey.
Well, we let
Look,
anyone
I
in
produce
here,
my
I
own
guess.
show. Once you start making your own show, you don't watch other people's content
Yeah,
anymore.
that is true.
Okay,
That is true.
Like that's literally like I stopped listening Fed Post, which was like the only thing I was listening to for a while. Podcast.
You didn't listen to my episode of the Fed Post?
I did listen to that one. I
There
think
you
the
go.
last
It was
one.
hilarious. That's
The
why.
last one
But-
I think I listened to was Doomers back in like Christmas.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
No. Anyways, so yes, the sac. There was that thing. There was
Okay,
that thing
so
when-
I'm
Hey.
in. I just can't use my camera. It's too much for my MacBook to handle. I tried like 3 times and
Oh.
it just
No,
crashes.
no worries. I mean, one other
Problem.
thing you could do if you want to is use the phone as a plan B, but this works fine as well. I'm just glad to
Bro,
hear
she
you.
had twins. I don't think Plan B is gonna work anymore.
I knew you were gonna do
Oh,
that.
you son of a bitch.
Ah.
See how Lev just led James down the primrose path into saying that. Anyways,
By the way, Effina, how are the twins? How's everything going?
They're doing very well. They just saw their pediatrician today, and Noah is 12 pounds, James is 11, so they're getting big, and they're both perfect and beautiful. I love them so
that's
much.
good.
That's wonderful. Well, we were talking about raw milk right now, and when it comes to diets for little kids, do you see any risks? I know this is kind of going away, but fuck it, why not? I mean, we're talking about health anyway. Do you guys see any risks when it comes to later on, after breast milk, after kids get older, starting, with the raw milk? Or are there still risks as far as lack of pasteurization? There could be some pathogens, and that's like a one and done type of thing.
Okay, so while I was pregnant, I drank a lot of raw milk all throughout my pregnancy, and I'm not dead. So I think it's okay to give to babies.
All right. Well, any disagreements here? Are we all on the same page then? Any devil's
I mean,
advocate?
as long as you get it from a clean place,
Yeah.
that's not like filthy, that's gonna contaminate the milk, then you're all set. I mean, there's no difference between raw and pasteurized because the contamination isn't from the milk itself, it's from the outside.
That's an interesting point. I mean, as far as I understand, the reason for pasteurization in the first place was the factories were so screwed up back during the time when this law was passed. They had, horrible, lack of cleanliness there, and that was the reason. There are still some people who, expire from drinking the... well, actually, I'm not sure. I don't know one person who's actually died
there's
from raw
E.
milk.
coli issues Yeah, that's funny.
But there were people who died from not just raw cheese, but like the specific tub cheese that I think is popular in California. Like in the Mexican community, they make this cheese in the tub, and that's pretty weird. I don't know, but either way, I think what I'm getting here is that a lot of these things that we've been taught early on are bad for us are actually not just good for us, but they're great for us. Like when
everything's been a psyop.
But that's
Exactly.
only a thing in America. Like in Kuwait, people drink raw milk as if it's it's normal. We drink raw camel's milk, raw cow's milk, raw cheese.
Effina, you have to realize there's only one country in the world, and it's America, baby. USA!
USA! USA!
That's very typical. That's a very typical thing for an American to say, because seriously, Americans think that America is the only country in the world.
I
It's
make
like
the
Charles.
joke, but it's true. Like, it's
Yes.
literally true.
Well,
like,
I
people
mean-
do think that.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's still going to America, like they're not going to Russia. I'm not gonna.
You know,
Oh, they
sometimes
will. They will. Don't
Sometimes
give it-
we're
give
reminded
it a
that Gio
decade.
lives in Snow, Mexico, but other than that,
Snow Mexico.
Hmm.
Well,
By the
at least in Mexico they let their people out.
By the way, we
Yeah.
have a $10 super chat from the ABC for Effina. In light of the recent news, I have to retract my recent statements and would like to issue a formal apology to Miss Effina. I know you partook in the sacred act of family creation. I would have never. So there we go.
What
Well,
does that mean? Is
I don't-
that
I
an
think.
Oh,
insult
is this
or a
ABC's
compliment?
one?
No,
Yes.
I think he said something. I saw something earlier in the chat that was suggestive towards you.
Yes,
No, I'm
if
sure.
Tina beat me until
put
you
it lightly.
disfigure me for $2.
This is the second time he was asking people to beat him. In the last stream that I had, he was also. I'm not going to get into it right now. But anyway, back to the subject at hand, because I think we made some progress here. Okay, I think we came in here with the intention of sparking up some kind of controversy. But as far as I could see,
I came in here with the intention of bullying Gio, but I don't know about you guys.
Oh, that didn't work, did it?
Well,
they
it's
call
not.
it detourment.
It's not the end of the stream yet, Gio. So we'll see what the day
But
brings.
anyways, I wanted to.
What are you talking
specifically-
about? The seed oils already did my job for me.
Oh, Oh, terrible. No, I wanted to get into this issue of the V word. So what is your
Virginity?
Oh my God, you're on fire.
Well, at least if I had a GF, she wouldn't be denigrated on 4chan the way that James is. But anyways, that's we can't all be perfect. We can't all be dating R9K truth bait. Anyways, the sacrament issue that came up that you were a supporter of, and I guess that's on the right wing, it seems in Twitter there's this sort of certain people, I think they're not seen as trustworthy after their sort of proclamation of taking the V.
Wait.
Peter Nemitz, for instance.
Has Seed Oil Disrespecter ever said that I'm never taking it or anything of that nature?
Well, yeah, maybe if you could, yeah. Well,
let's get a little bit of
context.
clearance. Yeah.
I only follow 69 people, so I don't feel like I really went after any corner of Twitter. But I was on Killstream, Ethan Ralph's.
Oh, okay.
I was on his thing, and he asked me, and I said yes, because he asked me.
Do you take the sacrament? Yes.
Yeah, because me and someone else were on there, and they asked. He said, because a lot of our listeners care about this, and we're like, yeah. And at the time, and same now, that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah,
I'm not here to talk about that, and I actually am happy about that because I think that seed oil disrespect is, I call it quad partisan. I've never heard that phrase before, so I think it's another one of my memes. Because no matter what segment you're in, there's good reasons to disrespect seed oils.
And it's
Yeah,
not like you were making an
And to be
impression
fair,
as
Ethan
if...
Ralph was taking it too. I mean, he did fly to Portugal, so I wonder how
yeah.
they let him do that. So,
And it's not like you were making
know a
an
guy.
impression. Well, it's not like you were making an impression of, being somebody who you're not. It's not like you were saying, "Oh, I'm never gonna take it," and yada yada yada. You were not doing that. So I don't see any reason why people bring that up as an example of, unless it's again just purity spiraling. I don't know what else it would be.
And as gay and cringe as the virtual signaling Facebook posts from 2020 are, like, they really don't matter because you don't post about it ever on the account.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's like,
well, no,
you
I
know,
think the threat is that it goes to who was the person, not Breast Milk and Joy, who did the thread. It was
raw milk.
Raw Milk and Joy. Yes. It goes to the sort of evidence against you as someone who is a quote unquote alleged infiltrator. So I think they're like, well, this guy is like pandering to a more like right wing audience, but yet he's like doing the sort of cringy like.
I mean, one of my first popular memes was like a right wing and a left wing, like right on the side of the king. Like from the beginning, I think I sent out signals that like I want everyone involved in this. I would love. I would go on and talk to Rachel Maddow about this. I would go on and talk to. I mean, you could summarize everything I talk about in an elevator speech, huh?
No, it's not. It's just
Oh yeah, no,
But to be fair, you chose Pepe the Frog as your avatar, and that does have a certain kind of signaling, right?
When you talk to the Burger King crown guy.
You know, it's funny. I'm writing an article on the E-Right. I actually had to go and buy, which hopefully she will come on the show one day. But Angela Nagel's Kill All Normies. I mean, she gets a lot of stuff wrong, but I guess the whole like Pepe
she's a woman that comes with the territory.
But also,
what'd you say, James?
I said she's a woman that comes with the territory.
Oh, wow. That's true.
But also, Seed Oil Disrespector, if you just think about who exactly to market this kind of thing to, I'm not right now talking about marketing the zero thing. I'm talking specifically about what you do with the seed oils. It's not going to be people in the left, because they're injecting the seed oils left and the right. They're injecting it into their butts, for God's sake. We're talking about people who are going to be online. Unfortunately, we're not going to have, and I'm changing this by the way, but we're not going to have that many centrists or classic liberals who are going to be online all the time. Most of those people already have a job and have a career. So most people who were going...
Well, Lev, implying that, I mean...
You knew that was
Lev, wait a minute. Lev, I can't let you go with that one. There are a lot of people I know who have like normie jobs who are into like far right politics. I mean, of course they don't dox themselves, but I mean that's to say that like everyone's like me.
Well, no, not every dog is a Chihuahua. Not every dog is a Chihuahua. Not every Chihuahua. Chihuahua.
Okay.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Anyways, I wanted to ask Seed Oil, then Sigma something, but go ahead, Seed Oil, if you wanted to reply to that point. Yeah.
To which point? I'm sorry.
What Lev was saying about you're not going to sort of cast a wide net in terms of like people who are like, but I get what you're saying. You want to sort of get the quote unquote normie involved in saying that, well, their health choices have a greater impact upon them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I made the account, my banner, which is from the movie Predator, and my profile picture were probably within the last like 30 photos on my scroll. I was like, oh, this one's good. Yeah, I saved that, and it just looked so aesthetic when I had done it, and I was like, keep it like that. And I've been a meme guy. I've been a meme guy since the Impact font, you know, and the cats that did this and all the basic stuff over the years. You know? And what better way to? I wanted to get as much people talking about seed oils as possible. Simple. How do you do that?
And I think memes are the most effective way. Like, you know, that's going to be the easiest thing to share. I mean, like, you know, when I post on my personal account, the stuff that does the best are fucking memes because, you know, that's the most easily digestible thing. You know, there's a reason why that, you know, women posting L's took off because it's fucking meme formatted.
Well, James,
I think James has been toppled by e-girls posting L's, but that's I don't know. I don't see you.
They don't. It doesn't count when they bought followers. Or
no. There's this new one. Oh, sorry. OnlyFans girls posting L's. There's the new one.
Oh, I thought you were talking about.
OnlyFans.
Oh no, I think you were talking about.
Well, no. Okay, hold on. Okay, well, let's let's get back on
Just
track
hit
here.
250K the other day, by the way.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh.
Well, no,
Quarter of a
let's get
million
back.
right there.
Let's get back on track here. I want to hear from Effina as well on this. But when we're talking about these various online cultures, I still think that you're not really going to have as much normies with something like Pepe the Frog. I think that a lot of people who are more on the liberal left would get a little bit turned off from there. And again, I don't really, if you look at the articles that are coming out from Vice, things of that nature, they're already painting this picture of, like the seed oil, hating craze, that this is like a far right thing, And I don't think they're taking that out of their ass. I think that there is a connection with people who are dissatisfied with the way things are in the United States, a lot of this woke bullshit, who end up going, what's their choice? They're only going to keep going more to the right because they don't have an alternative.
So I just want to say, I have a lot of people with pronouns in their bios that follow me, and people with different flags. And, because I don't follow a lot of people, so I randomly click on things, and and from different countries, and people are interested in this idea. And
but why do you think they're associating it more with the right side? At least, why is Vice doing that?
Because we're the most vocal.
And also because it's like, esoteric health is more of like a right-wing thing and stuff like that.
And a lot of libs have noticed that.
But
and
it's
they're
also
not happy about it.
I mean,
also, it's a way for these big corporations to easily discredit it and be like, "Ooh, right-wing boogeyman."
I wanted to answer that, but Sigma.
Wait, hold on, Sigma. Yeah,
look at the article about Bitcoin and fucking seed oils that Vice published
and
a week ago.
They didn't include anything from Tucker Goodrich. That's why we released that.
Can we put seed oils on?
Wait, Sigma.
The most into in meme format, you'd say like astrology, crystal girl healing type stuff, right? That's also a very liberal thing. So I would say it's just on the extremes. I would say more right centrist people are going to be in line with what we're talking about than centrist left people. But for sure, I think it happens on both sides. And it's just a different flavor. And I imagine you have the same type of, esoteric people on the far left as you do as the far right.
But would they be talking about seed oils though?
It's just there's slight differences. You know what I mean? I think it really just comes with the connotation that's being thrown at it, right? I mean, somewhere along the line we decided that Pepe was like a Nazi, and it's just an easy equation for them to say well, he's a Nazi, so therefore it's like, oh well, we can't be a part of that if we want to be in our camp and keep our friends and be in this circle. I think it's just a very primitive psyop almost. I don't think there's too much into it other than somewhere along someone decided to make a narrative about this, and that's what it became. It's almost too easy.
For me, I think it's more internet.
Yeah.
The media had its day with it, but for me, it's more just it's meme. That's just
it's in 4chan culture, right? Before Moot sold out, you could. That was a dark place, and I mean, it was anything goes. I mean, I grew up in that's what I remember in it.
Have you ever watched the video, The Metaphysics of Pepe?
No.
Oh yeah, by was that the Jonathan Peugeot one, or was it the
Jonathan Peugeot and Jordan Peterson?
I wrote an article about that one back in the day, back when West Coast Reaction.
Email it to me, please.
I will actually. It's in my archive. But it's funny because what's interesting about the last 10 years is that back in the day, from the 90s even up until the early 2000s, this was primarily coded as almost a left-wing thing. You had the sort of last vestiges of leftist New Ageism, where they were the ones who were into anti-sacrament stuff and esoteric health.
Well, and a lot of people are on the left.
still to this day. It seems that as time went on, when it became sort of the corporate incentive, then now you have the typical debunker articles about why GMOs are safe or why this is good.
Yeah.
It's but I wonder, for you and Sigma Senpai, what would it take, I think, in terms of the sort of the food industry that is so reliant on seed oils, because it has all the metrics of the sort of neoliberal economic system. It's fast, it's easy, it's cheap, you can produce an industrial scale. Virtually every fast food chain, without the exception of a few. I think Arby's got rid of some. They rely upon seed oils essentially to be like literally the transfer, like hot plate conveyance of their food stuff, and the preservatives and medication and so forth. So what would it take? Like, what would be a conceivable alternative that could fulfill all of that criteria, apart from having a radical like transformation to the way we engage with
Gio,
food?
I actually disagree.
Oh, and
with
Effina,
you.
sorry, you're here. I'm sorry, Effina. Yeah.
Is my sound fine?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. So I don't think that they're using seed oils because it's easy. I think they're using it to destroy our genetics.
That's another thing too. I mean, I personally believe that, but like just for argument's sake. But yes, go ahead, Effina.
I think you could make an argument for both. I think, you know, obviously you're further down the rabbit hole if you think it's like, let's prey on the polymorph.
I don't think so, because look at money. Money is infinite.
Money talks.
It's paper. Look at gas. Gas, I don't believe that gas is limited. I think it's unlimited. They just try to make our lives difficult, like with taxes. So it's the same with seed oils. They just want to destroy our genetics.
Well,
so
it's only a question of like how many people are we talking here? I believe compartmentalization. I finally said that word correctly. I think it exists for certain things, like if we're talking about, I don't know, UFOs, if we're talking about secret space programs. I'm sure that there are ways that people can keep a lot of that shit hidden. Now, as far as certain agendas to, you know, worsen our health intentionally, as opposed to just Occam's razor, it's all about the money, it's all about cheap. I'm having a harder time believing that something like this would go just beyond these very base intentions.
Cheap, like it's the efficiency maxing effect of economics when it comes to food.
Well, like even large-scale farming, I mean, the damage, and I don't know, Sigma, if you can speak to that as well, and the seed oil disrespecter, farming, the way that it's done in the United States, at least, it's pretty bad as far as large-scale industrialization. There's a lot of risk, from what I understand, of crops getting destroyed because we're just using like monoculture. We're planting the same thing over and over again, and if there's some disease, then it all goes away.
Yeah, we need to reduce demand for these seed oils. So we need to raise awareness so people don't use them. We need to have people get other things. You know, half of my list is vegan, the simple 6 that we talk about. 5 out of the 6 are vegetarian. It's only tallow out of our 6 that is, you know, meat-based. And, you know, we want to get people getting these things. And to use a visual, I said, you know, the gluten-free menu at P.F. Chang's, you know, I want the equivalent. You know, I want people to know about this to that extent where they demand these things, and it can change things. Look at what happened with gluten-free. You know, that's bread. You know, this is in the Western Christian world, and we got bread to the point where people were like, "Oh, is this gluten-free? I want to try that," because it got memed. It was just the idea. It wasn't a scare meme on your phone, but the idea was memed.
I mean, you know, Effina may know better than anyone. I think Kuwait, a lot of the Middle East, I think Egypt, the way they refine grains or don't refine grains, there's a lot more magnesium in their diet.
Yeah.
A lot of, for the typical American, the main place you're going to get magnesium is going to be coffee. And so, you know, you pretty much just have it in coffee. A lot of people aren't getting enough magnesium, or when they are getting magnesium, it's magnesium oxide, and it's not, you know, a chelated form. It's not glycinate. It's nothing bioavailable.
Yeah, the food quality in America is just
I would
horrible.
Say,
because when my husband, who's
Right.
American, like he eats one thing in America and he's in so much pain. And when he was in Kuwait, we would have breakfast, 2 lunches, we'd have a dinner, and then my parents would stuff his face with a second dinner, and he never had any gut issues, just because there's such a difference between the food quality in, let's say, Kuwait and America.
It's almost like we're fighting a losing war here too, because, you know, we were talking about, maybe this is to damage us. It's not just follow the money, but this is actually, you know, intentional.
Yeah, look at the standard American diet. It's so bad,
and you could
especially
boil
what they
a lot of
plan for babies.
Yeah.
Like if you go to a pediatrician, they'll tell you that the first food for a baby should be rice cereal, but babies can't even digest rice cereal, so you're destroying their guts, and you're giving them hernias and
I would just
acid
also keep in
reflux.
mind, though, that there are people out there who are way, way, way below your level, Effina. I've seen mothers with like 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, maybe even 1-year-olds. They give them a bag of chips, like a
I've
bag
seen
of
that,
Lay's.
yeah. I've
Evil.
seen that, or
Child
microwave
abuse.
mac and
Well,
cheese.
this goes back to something I mentioned earlier, which is kind of the softball toss medical criticism that I tell people about is pretty much all of us grew up being told that 11 servings of bread is what you should be eating as the staple of your diet. And then if you look at the food pyramid, I mean, the whole medical industry signed off on this for decades. I mean, I remember the fact that I was in school being told, 11 servings of bread and pasta, and then grain wasn't even, it was alphabetical. It was bread, right? It was
Yeah.
the first thing, 11.
But then why is it that
bread.
particularly
wonder why
North
we're talking-
American, like why is it North American grains? Like, for example, the land of my people, Italy, and James's people, it seems that they have an intensely grain diet with pasta and so forth, and other complex carbs. But it seems,
That is true.
I guess Japan and other parts of Asia with rice. But
Yeah.
it seems that it's North America in particular is like ground zero for the obesity crisis.
Seed oils.
The diabetes rate.
Well, seed oils, yeah,
pretty-
but go ahead, yeah.
But there's a real, the Mediterranean diet has such a nutrient dense like variety, especially when you get into shellfish, for example, which is a staple in the Mediterranean diet, and you've got omega-3s in plenty of fish. Also, the way you cultivate and refine those grains is a big difference.
Right.
We like to think of like bread equals bread, but it doesn't. Grain equals grain, it doesn't. And so a lot of it just comes down to production, not only quality, but how they go about it. Because, if you look at like longevity studies on the Mediterranean diet, it's pretty good. It's up there with like pescatarian, is another really good one. I mean, I like any low mercury yielding shellfish is, probably the best way to get your zinc. For example, you could just have a handful of oysters and pretty much have your week's worth of zinc. And so it might just come down to, variation, I would say. And it's also the,
olive oil is a big one. There's a lot of
real olive oil.
Yeah.
Diet.
They
keep
have
a lot of
additives,
real
right?
stuff.
They have additives in the olive oil that's commercially.
Yeah, they put chlorophyll and other.
I don't
things
know
to
if
mimic certain.
it's much like you would think it would be like sacrilege in Italy or Greece to have like a mostly grapeseed oil olive oil, but I don't know. Maybe it's maybe over there they have much more stringent laws about how they can market their olive oils and what they can be composed of, how much has to be made from olives.
They do, but believe it or not, the Italian mafia actually has a bunch of olive oil scams where they'll get like cheaper olive oil that's like less refined from for places like in across the Asiatic and the Slavic states, or they will actually just mix it with seed oils and they will sort of fabricate the paperwork and so forth. So you don't actually know certain brands. You don't actually know what you're getting in terms of Italian olive oil.
That was the business, by the way, in The Godfather. If you recall, they were in the olive oil business.
Yeah, they still do. Like, yeah. My grandfather actually, when he was in Italy, before the war, he wasn't a soldier. He was a mechanic in the Italian Air Force. He got interned by the Germans. He was sent to a farm in Hamburg.
Was he a soldier in the mafia? Was he?
No. He would work when he was a boy. He worked in an olive oil factory, and he said that they pulled all sorts of scams where the head was the best, and they would give it to people. They would sell it to people they knew, but then like the inferior shit was some of the pumice. They would just they would give it to mass market. So, yeah.
But wait, I want to go back to Effina. So Effina, what about the bread in Kuwait? Would you say that's healthier bread than a lot of the bread here?
Because we only eat pita bread, which is, in my opinion, healthier than any other kind of bread.
Why is that?
because the Bible says that you shouldn't eat bread with yeast in it. So that's
Is there
why I think
So
peanut bread
is there
healthier.
truth? Is there truth to this biblical passage as far as health goes?
I think so, because yeast disrupts the gut biome.
Is everybody in agreement here?
I think so. When you have a lot of yeast in your diet, I believe one of the byproducts encourages candida culture. So I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, you can grow a substantial amount of candida with high. I think it's from certain fermented foods, yeast. I think in general, actually, like refined sugars is probably the biggest one for candida, and isn't obviously isn't yeast, but in general,
It's because the candida feeds on sugar, right?
yeah, and so it basically climbs up and gets closer and closer to the stomach, and if you don't have sufficient amounts of fiber in your diet, or you have a high enough glucose load, it basically gets up and feeds on the good stuff while it's and so you get this candida culture, which can cause all sorts of gastrointestinal problems and inflammation, lethargy. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of symptoms that comes with bad gut biome, and furthermore a fungal biome like candida.
So if I'm trying to avoid bread, you're saying the best kind to have is pita bread, because there's no
bread.
Pita bread and sourdough is
for
pretty good, isn't
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
sourdough is the
sourdough.
best for people.
bread. I'll actually give her a point. Try and keep it from a non-religious perspective. Is I know a lot of bodybuilders switch, if they're gonna have bread, lower glycemic index bread is Ezekiel bread, because it's made also from, I think, beans, and it has a lower glycemic index, and so you have a subsequently lower insulin burden on your pancreas. So that, yeah, I don't know how pita bread is made, but I know at least Ezekiel bread is supposed to be like the biblical bread, and it is healthier.
Oh, we have a comment from Alex Delarge, who says, this guy is absolutely ignorant of basic nutrition and biology. Who the hell is this? And then he says, yes.
Oh, Alex is me and
All
him
right.
go at it.
All right. But
He's
here,
on
let
your
me,
side,
I
Lev,
gotta,
though.
here.
One issue.
Here. He says, yes, candidiasis is a thing, but it doesn't involve fiber intake. It doesn't climb into the stomach, he says.
No,
Kronkick said that bodybuilding is religious. I agree with
that. Okay, Sigma.
yeah.
That's true. No, it absolutely does. You can absolutely, if there's no fiber in your diet and you have high sugar like in your diet, that it basically climbs the colon, essentially. I'm not even joking. You can literally I actually remember a couple years ago, one of the people who made this popular was Rhonda Patrick. And she talked about how if you don't have sufficient amount, it's not like if you have ample amounts of fiber, you're just going to stave it off. You still need to have lower sugar in your diet, but it definitely plays a big role in the bacteria culture. If you have no fiber in your diet and high sugar, that's what happens, is you have this like rampant candida culture. But it's definitely not like you're not going to like take some psyllium husk and then suddenly, oh no, I have no issues. Like it doesn't work that way. But anyone who says that fiber has nothing to do with your gut biome health and like the migration of these cultures is retarded.
Well,
what do you
the
guys
last thing he
of the
says,
high
hold on.
sugar-
The last thing he says, gastrointestinal candidiasis usually involves the lower intestine.
Yeah, and it climbs up if you don't have sufficient fiber, you fucking retard. Google it.
I don't think fiber is good for you. I mean, like,
Whoa!
a lot of people say that,
Fiber
you should eat,
disrespecter.
if you want to avoid gut issues, you should eat a lot of fiber, like vegetables. But I don't think that's true. I think that that's not good.
Are you on the carnivore diet sort of thing?
Well,
I follow the Weston Price diet, and I have my I'll have my children follow it as
Well,
well.
and she makes a good point, actually, because a lot of elimination diets have great gut biomes too. I mean, I'm not a big proponent for something like carnivore, for example. I've studied a lot of blood work on carnivore.
Yeah, it's not good.
Surrounding the like autoimmune disease stuff, inflammation markers, CRP, load on your pancreas, reducing that if you were pre-diabetic, stuff like that. And yeah, you don't need to eat, it doesn't seem to have any issues, but it seems like if you have, like, let's say you're eating a pretty normal balanced diet with like relatively low sugar, that increase in fiber is that the fiber ranges are definitely going to affect how the culture forms, like the substrate. It's basically the substrate for these cultures. And even like the prebiotic, I remember there was like this, I don't know if it was a scam, but they were selling basically you would like ingest dirt, and it was like specifically good.
It was supposed to be one of those cleansing things, but
I don't know whatever
clay.
happened to it. I remember reading up about it, but it was basically like it was supposed to be a way to like artificially like jumpstart your bacterial culture, where they would, they'd say like, oh, have a dog lick your face, eat these pills that have like this substrate for your microbiome, all this stuff. It was pretty interesting, and I think it might have been like 4 or 5 years ago, and I never knew what happened to it. But in general, yeah, it's kind of scary how many ways you can skin a cat, because I know some people on carnivore only that just feel impeccable, and their their blood work, their inflammatory markers are so low. They had high CRP before. Now it's like bottomed out. Their skin problems go away, their eczema. And I'm not even, everything I had learned up until then would say this is probably a bad idea. That's why we're here, right? I mean, none of this is like settled science, I would say. A lot of it you do, and most of what I get through, the clinics that I funded and people in the bodybuilding circle is anecdotal, but there's got to be something to it. And I've seen people have success on a lot of different diets. But
have you looked out of curiosity?
As someone for the past 2 weeks has been eating only chicken, cheese, and vegetables, so I've cut out carbs mostly. I just want to say that I feel like I want to kill myself every fucking day. It's horrible.
I have a question, or I want to say something. So I have a friend, and she's like really, really fit and healthy, and she eats plant-based. Like, she doesn't eat meat. She eats clay for B12, but we were discussing this the other day, and she told me that your diet is based on your karmic energy. Like, some people thrive on carnivore diets, some people thrive on plant-based, and like, I don't know if I believe that. Maybe it's true, but perhaps that's why different people thrive on different diets.
I think it's genetics as well, probably.
Yeah.
It's sort of your ethnic makeup that probably influences the diet that you're
the two things go together.
Point.
Like, who's been cultivating milk for a long time and who hasn't? A lot of it lines up pretty well. I remember seeing a map of who's been cultivating milk cows and dairy for a certain amount of time, and they on average deal with dairy better. Like, I'm Scandinavian, and so my people have been cultivating milk cows for quite a long time. I do very well on the things of that diet. There's something to that. I think polymorphisms play a big role, and I wish it was more common to test for your polymorphisms, because you can find out a lot about what your predispositions to are toward not only certain diets, but even drugs and what you're susceptible to, disease wise. That plays a major role. I think there are some comprehensive tests for polymorphisms, but it's not very common. It's not like blood. You go to a clinic and you get a thyroid panel and
Wait, is it like a DNA test sort of thing, or what are we talking here?
So it just means like it basically just tests your genetic dispositions for certain diseases, and like, I don't know if it doesn't deal in like allergies or anything like that. But I was just referring to what she was saying about some people handle certain things differently. And it's like, well, some people also are, predisposed to all sorts of things. And the way you can generally get a good handle on that is through researching polymorphisms. Just like
Why
your
do
genetic
people
variation
think?
towards
Why do people think eating clay is weird? Monks have been doing it for thousands of years in Tibet.
clay?
Yeah. Why is that weird? It's
I don't know.
food.
Well, speaking
Like
of
Americans are so annoying because they're like, "Oh, eating clay is weird," but then they eat garbage all day. They eat red 12
When
and
it
yellow
was settled
24,
down-
but apparently clay is weird.
yes. Well,
Well, I
there's
think the thing with that is like Americans aren't like specifically saying, "Hey, I'm gonna go eat some Red 12 now." They're drinking fruit punch Gatorade
Yeah.
compared to
now
Drinking Sun-Kissed Red.
if they marketed clay the same way they marketed Capri Sun, then maybe we'll see a change in how people.
yeah,
are-
it's all
Yeah,
about
what was the
perception.
McDonald's one, the high C? They got rid of that. Why did they? That was
I mean, look,
amazing.
little kids love, eating glue. So I'm sure we could figure out a way to market clay. I mean, Seed Oil Disrespector, this could be your new venture. Like, you can forget about the zero people and just, like, start your own clay venture, pick up a lot of red clay, and, I'm sure it's plentiful.
All right,
just
challenge accepted.
Yeah,
What do
just
you guys
market that.
think of the peat diet? I mean, it seems that there's a lot of sugar disrespecting going on here. But
I'm
what
a
is your
sugar
opinion on Ray
respecter.
Pete?
I'm a big sugar disrespecter. That's true.
I
what do you
drink
think-
so much maple syrup every single
What is the-
day, and I feel great.
Well, from my understanding, Ray Pete says that sugar isn't inherently harmful.
Oh, Ray Pete. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Any
Wait, what
thoughts?
did you say, Seed Oil Disrespector? What is your opinion on Ray Pete?
I mean, I actually haven't. I understand, and I've been told that my message lines up with what he says, but I haven't really read a lot of his stuff.
Well, what is the basic gist of why he advocates for things like orange juice, for example? Like, what exactly is going on there? Because that seems like such a huge dose of sugar without...
Yeah, I don't know exactly. He says like natural sugars have a different satiation rate or something. I've yet to look into the esoteric.
So, like, galactose is good for your brain, and we know.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
So, like, it's hard for people to understand. So, like, when something is like lactose free, for example, they put lactase in it. There's nothing lactose free, but they basically put an enzyme in it that you're basically why it tastes sweeter is because it's mostly glucose you're tasting now instead of galactose, which is a lower sweetness to it, but galactose has benefits for the brain. And so a lot of these different sugar matrices have effects on, cells and enzymes that are different than each other, right? Than just consuming glucose or fructose. Same thing with the liver. I mean, there's differences in how, I believe it's your liver. I remember a bodybuilding trick, for example, I don't know how true this is, where they used to think that if you had a lot of fructose and then you had your carbs, that it would trick the liver into like excreting less glucose or something and storing more glucose in the muscle and stuff. But that's a big rabbit hole in itself. There are the different sugar matrices on health.
There's an important point that I'd like to throw out there, that real nutrition science hasn't been tried. And that's one of those memes that I put out there, because
I like that.
We have,
yeah, that's true.
Well, and for my own marketing here, my seed oil marketing, is that we have had unnaturally high levels of omega-6 in our bodies before we knew what omega-6 was. Because, speaking for the US, US centric right here, the adulteration of lard with cottonseed oil started, I think, Civil War era or something. I don't know exactly. Yeah. Late 1800s. And what was it and then Crisco, 1911. And then when did they discover omega-6? 1930, Yeah. And, so everybody is at high levels. And we know that sugar does not cause diabetes. It's omega-6. It's seed oils that induce insulin resistance.
I may have back on that. Can you elaborate on that? Because
yeah, that's a pretty big claim.
The strain of pancreas, beta cell pancreas, from insulin load, from spikes, and your blood.
I would like to come back to Tucker Goodrich. because he could cite the actual studies and give you
All right.
more. Like
How
I said,
about how
I'm
about
not
this?
the
How about we set
encyclopedia on
up
these
a
things, so.
Patreon only episode for the people who are like all you guys. Listen, if you want to listen to the nitty gritty of how exactly all this stuff works, come on Patreon, patreon.com/break the rules. Become a patron today, and you are going to get a lot of good stuff, including, like I just mentioned, Patreon only streams. So
And
yes,
And Omega 6 has no relation to Omega.
And while you're at it, subscribe to MK Ultra Money on YouTube. We are one subscriber away
That's
from
right.
1,000 right now. Be the
Woo!
1,000th subscriber, and Jules will suck you off.
He would have done that for free anyways.
Go tell them. Jules is gonna give you the sloppiest toppy you've ever had in your life if you're our 1,000th subscriber. So,
anyways, getting back to it. Omega 3, Omega 6. Why is Omega? I know this is a Grug brain question. Why is Omega 6 bad? Why is Omega 3 good?
The context is the fact that we're not swimming in omega 3. Like most of us are probably not getting enough because we're not eating fish or grass-fed beef or something. The context, when we talk about the ratio of our ratio's off because we have so much omega 6, it's not about having the perfect ratio. It's not being overload. You want to get enough omega 3. You don't really need that much. Eating some fish or grass-fed beef, or if you have to supplement a little bit, you don't have to slonk the fish oil. But we're swimming in it. We're absolutely swimming in the omega 6, and that's a very profound thing. It sounds simple, but as you extrapolate and you look into oxidative research and you look into the fat levels of extremely healthy populations, or in the levels of omega 6 in the fat of extremely healthy populations that don't have chronic disease, it's low. And the more you look into it, the more interesting it gets. So I don't look at it as good and bad. I look at it as we're flooded. We're absolutely flooded with it.
Well, before we go, I have one last question related to losing fat. So, from both of you guys, just a very simple question for people who are just starting on their journey. What is more important? Is it not eating the wrong shit or exercising, or how much does the exercise affect it versus not eating the wrong thing?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, I may get some pushback, but I am 98% calories in, calories out in terms of weight loss. I think, how fast you lose like water weight due to inflammation or how your diet affects glycogen storage in the muscle is, going to be part of it. I think we didn't talk a lot about it, but even I would say that calorie restriction, either from fasting or, I'm for the last like 6-7 months, I've been eating basically one meal a day, and I was at 6'4". I was 320 pounds. I was one of the biggest bodybuilders, and I lost like 60 pounds because I got edema on my feet when I was in a trip to Miami, and I had been partying pretty hard. And at the time, all these bodybuilders were dropping dead, we don't really know why they were dying. And I decided to make a change, but I had already been a huge proponent for fasting. And I've always found that my blood work is impeccable on fasting. I think you got to get past that little hurdle. I think generally calorie restriction due to like, either closing in on a feeding period is going to incidentally reduce the amount of calories you're eating just because of that window of time. But I think if you want to hit everything on the head, you want to lower your cholesterol, you want to raise your growth hormone levels, but keep IGF-1 levels up, even with like low sugar diets. You want low CRP, you want your thyroid kicking out, you want to take less strain on your pancreas, you want to not always be in mTOR, right? All those good things for longevity. I think you want to lose weight. I think you learn how to calorie restrict from fasting. I think it's not the easiest part. If you want the easiest answer, that's not going to be it. Get your thyroid checked out, obviously, but I would say fasting is probably one of the best kept secrets in not just health, but in weight loss.
And when you're working out at the same time, how important is it to maintain, let's say, a certain amount of protein for muscle gain while at the same time restricting your diet?
I mean, it depends on your goals. The clinical research says that you want for men roughly 1 gram of protein per, I think it's pound of body weight. I really don't think that's super accurate, and I think it really falls off quickly. Now, if you're an enhanced athlete and you have a much higher protein synthesis rate or something like that, don't listen to that. I think you need a lot more protein. But generally, I think a good rule of thumb is like 0.5 to 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And that's not really all as hard as you think to do. I think unless you're like vegan, then it's going to be pretty difficult to do. Well, I guess it depends on, there are some very protein dense vegan sources, but I'm not a big believer that all proteins are the same. So I don't like, for example, the bioavailability of, peanut butter versus beef is not the same. And then people will say like, well, the nitrogen retention seems to be the same on paper. Don't listen to those people. I don't believe it for a second.
And what about the protein powders?
Unless you're trying to be a bodybuilder,
And what about the protein powders? Would you say that those are just a fad, or there is something to them?
I don't think they, I wouldn't say they don't work. Okay. I don't think they, like, if you need to supplement extra protein, I don't think they're a healthy option. I'm not a big fan of them. I don't think you really need to supplement for all that much outside of your diet if you do it correctly. Even as a bodybuilder, I don't even know anybody in the pro circuit really that has protein shakes all the time. They're just getting it from their food. They really are. I know all these guys trained for 3 years with the top bodybuilders in the world, and none of them are like downing protein shakes all the time. It's too bad. Their they feel sick, and then they just fart every 5 seconds. Like, nobody wants that.
And what is your stance on raw eggs?
Okay, so here's my problem with the raw egg thing. I don't know much about the research with the yolk, but I know that people that have a really high intake of raw eggs seem to show lower B6 levels, and I think it's because of a compound in unheated egg called, like, it starts with an A. It's like albidine or something, albitrine or something, that reduces B6 levels, and so they can become B6 deficient. So I think you want to supplement with maybe some B6 if you're going to do that. And I don't believe pasteurized egg whites, for example, which you can drink, they're safe to drink. And they're a good source of protein and everything. I'm not sure if the temperature is high enough to denature the enzyme that is responsible for this B6 reduction. I also just don't think it's like that, delicious to me. I haven't looked much into the rabbit hole of why they say it's much better.
Well, it depends on the egg. Like, if you get a nice orange yolk, it tastes way different than some bland ass.
Down the road, literally like a couple blocks away, there's just a guy with it, and they come in all different colors and sizes, and there's like a bluish, small egg, and then a brown, and when you cook them, they're like this bright, vibrant color. Yeah, they're not like these store-bought eggs. I believe in all that. I just don't think I think the bioavailability does seem to be higher for cooked eggs. So if protein is why you're doing it versus like nutrient density and spectrum or whatever, if you think something's being denatured in that, then, go for it. But if it's just like, I think it's kind of a catch that you may not be absorbing as much protein. And there's going to be a lot of like raw meat eater, people that are going to say like, oh no, you're designed for this shit, dude. Like, you can do it. We didn't know how to cook shit. Your body's built to have this. Maybe.
Well,
man.
well, another thing Rog Nationalist talked about is the shake having to do with putting like 6 or 8 raw eggs in the blender together with raw cream and mixing all that up and slurping that down.
That could be interesting. I'll tell you a quick gross story of when I do drink raw eggs, which is when I would be bulking. I would usually put and I would leave it overnight. I would usually put a bunch of raw eggs in my like Ninja blender thing, and I would put raw kefir. Or no. I would blend it with some kind of like vinegar, believe it or not, and I would leave that over. And I would whip it up really high because it's not the temperature 18 nature that compound. It can also be an acid, so you're like cold cooking it, right? And then I would put like raw kefir and whatever else I want in. And I would drink that twice a day, and it sat with me perfectly well. And I felt fine about it. But, I think if it sits well for you, you just got to learn to like listen to your body a little bit. I know that seems a little woo-woo for someone but trial and error is everything, man. Well, I know some people that have changed their lives with stuff that is totally against the grain. And I've seen how they act and how they live, their energy levels, their mental health. Don't believe everything, people say, and not even me, go and try it as long as it's not super reckless.
As long as it's not seed oil, I guess that's what we're getting here. Well, speaking of seed oil, James, what are you eating? Okay, you got some food here. Yes, you gotta testify.
I got Greek food from an authentic Greek restaurant called Under the Bridge on 59th Street. It's fucking delicious. I got chicken kebabs. There's some potatoes in here I really can't eat right now, and peppers and onions. This place rocks.
All right, so with these chickens are probably living inside of a death camp. Now, I can't say that for sure. Maybe they were grass-fed chickens who had a good life, but that's the other thing that kind of freaks me out with a lot of the restaurant food is that unless they specify that, these animals were so-and-so pasture-raised, I just think like all of them just came from living hell, and now we're eating them. But how much do you think that, number one, spiritually, number two, just in terms of the body, and Effina, I would love to hear your take on this as well, how much do you think it affects a person eating from, meat from one of these, industrial farms in the long run?
Well, I'm going to say this. Every restaurant is, unless they explicitly say it, is probably coming from these chicken Holocaust internment camps.
Oh my God!
God damn it! You had to. I said death camp intentionally so that you know where the bridge is. You had to cross that bridge.
The 6 million chickens.
God damn it, James! Jesus.
Well, chickens were kicked out of 100 countries before that. So.
All right, James. I let you get away with it. I let you get away with it because I know that you're actually not a real fascist. So I let you get away with it.
Yes, exactly. But I avoid seed oils when eating out.
Look at Love leading James down the primrose path.
I call up for every place beforehand if I haven't gotten confirmation from anyone else, and pretty much authentic Greek and authentic Italian are like really the only good things that you can eat out. So, and I'm leaving for Miami tomorrow, and I was out of groceries, so.
There we go. All right, on to Super Chats. And before the Super Chats, Seed Oil Disrespector, is there anything you would want to also add into this whole discussion about, like, the farms and do the farms also then incorporate a lot of these seed oils into what the animals eat? Like, how are the animals doing when it comes to a lot of these industrial farms? Or even smaller scale farms, I don't know.
I mean, I've seen reports of, like, grocery store bacon having upwards of like even 30% omega-6 in some cases, basically a seed oil. But I'm glad you brought up the farms because I think I've gone too hard on farms. Like, I understand that in my bio, it literally says propagandist. I'm just trying to direct people away from seed oils. I don't want to direct people away from farms. So I've gone too hard on bacon. I don't think it's a good idea to be a bacon maxer unless you really know where it's coming from, because even independent farms can be giving them feed with corn and maybe even corn oil in it, depending on what they're giving them. And I don't want to throw suspicion. I just want to say, find out what they're eating, but support farms. And if you're going to eat bacon, if you don't know where it's coming from, do the paper towel trick and dry it off. I don't think it's a good idea to be cooking in lard frequently because it can be high in omega-6. We used to, not now because we don't have that resource as close by, but we used to buy chickens and eggs a lot from a farmer's market from a farm where I was in medical school. And that was great. It was excellent. It was actually, it was back then, it was even before we went full disrespecter. My wife didn't want to eat bacon anymore because of the conditions, and she didn't really want to, buy chicken from the grocery store anymore. But everyone's
one thing
different.
I don't follow on the Weston Price diet is eating pork, because I just never had it. It's because of my religion mainly, but
absolutely haram.
Yes, exactly.
I don't need.
But I don't think pork is good for you. I think it's filthy, and it's just, I don't know, the thought. I love pigs.
Yeah,
as
pigs
I
are cute.
disagree, Effina. As a med, you are wrong 100%.
It's disgusting. It has bacteria and worms in it that you just can't
Oh,
Gio's setting me up so hard right now, but I'm good. I've bullied him enough, I think, this episode.
Oh, go ahead, James. Go ahead.
Gio's only defending the pigs because he looks like one. Come
Oh,
on.
No, that was too easy. That was too easy. You got to try.
At least I don't sleep with one,
That's
James.
not true.
Oh!
That's not true. I think Gio looks great, but pigs are, eating pig is, in my opinion,
I
very
insulted his
nasty.
girlfriend, which was worse.
Wait, seed
Anyways,
oil disrespecter. Oh, and also, Effina, I did forget to ask you, my apologies about the spiritual aspect of not only the pigs, because you mentioned that, but in general, animals from the factory farms. What do you think that would karmically do for people to consume these poor things?
Wait, before you answer that, so you're telling me I can eat this pita bread and not feel guilty?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what it's made of.
Yeah.
It depends on the kind of flour, I guess.
But also, like the factory, like the place where the grain grew for that pita bread. Maybe there were some little rabbits and gophers that went on the blunt edge of the machine that was extracting all this stuff. That's the problem. We never fucking know unless it's our own garden. At the end of the day,
I'm still only having half a piece, but ease my mental mind here.
Yeah, I want to absolve everyone of their carb guilt, because I think if we're not insulin resistant from omega-6 toxicity, that you just eat until you're full.
Well,
So,
for me, I have high blood pressure and high blood sugar from when I went to the doctor 2 weeks ago, which is why I've been cutting out all the carbs. So I know it's from all the carbs and the alcohol, because that's like the two-thirds of my diet. The other third is chicken. So.
Well, speaking of carbs, by the way, Sigma, I'm curious. Speaking of carbs, what do you think of keto, going into ketosis? Does it waste muscle as much as they claim about the fat burning?
No, I don't. You don't need carbs to build muscle. First of all, carbs are good for the insulin response because insulin shuttles nutrients. Insulin is actually one of the most anabolic compounds that the body can produce in a secondary way, right? That's why it's so commonly abused in the bodybuilding circuit. Is people will take short acting insulin with large carb meals because the glycogen retention in the muscles is higher. There's more nutrient shuttling to the muscle. So I think the only two things you really need to build muscle are protein and fats. You don't need carbs to build muscle. And so you can go into complete ketosis and preserve, I would say, a dramatic amount of muscle still being in ketosis. I'm not a big fan of ketosis personally, just because I love, drinking milk. I grew up drinking milk, and you can't really have any substantial amount of milk and expect to remain in ketosis.
Is there anything for the intermittent fasting, let's say, when for a certain period of the day you would abstain from things like milk, or in general not really eat that much, and then later on you
water if I was fasting? I mean, I'm not a bit. I want to go back on something I said, which is that you should just intermittent fast. I'm more. If you want to lose weight, I think restricting your window is a good thing. But for health reasons, I think you want to dig into a bit of a longer fast. Like I've done 3 to 5 day fasts where, autophagy starts kicking in and you're, scavenging some of those senescence cells, right? That's, I think, probably the best takeaway if it's like anti-cancer risk. Your growth hormone hikes usually after the 3rd day.
If I tried to do a full day of fasting, I would be in prison so fast.
It actually feels really good after a couple of days. Usually you're not hungry, at least until, you get used to it. The only advice I would say is do a water fast, have maybe a little bit of magnesium and some sodium and potassium with your water, and then maybe psyllium husk to bind to the bile acid from when your bile ducts are going to start dilating, because you're basically, you're starving. And so the bile acids get released after a couple of days. And so a lot of people start like basically throwing up bile, and you don't want that. And a lot of people have found that if you have like some psyllium husk, throughout the day in little amounts, it'll bind to the bile acid and you'll just pass it. I think it's Sachin Panda, I think, does a fasting mimicking diet that, seems to work for a lot of people. But yeah, so I wouldn't say it's just intermittent fasting. I would say periodic, like say once a month you fast for like 3 days. That's sufficient. I think that's really a healthy choice. I think if you can get your body up to like 5 days, you'll start to dig into the good autophagy and get rid of senescent cells. And I think that's a little bit better. If you want a good resource on fasting, I would look up Leo in longevity. He's a medical research PhD who's retired, who does a lot of stuff on fast, all sorts of topics, but I met him through the bodybuilding scene, and he's also he's from Dubai, but he goes into a lot of that stuff, and it's pretty brilliant.
Dubai, that's not that far away from Kuwait, is it?
Well, he's in California now, but
it's like an hour away by plane.
Originally from Dubai. Yeah. He's a smart.
I will actually be going there. I'm going to Kuwait in June, and then I'm taking Charles to Dubai and then Saudi Arabia, which is going to be really fun.
Nice. And before that, I did want to ask you about the karmic effect, because we kept, we kept going away from that. So I want to ask that question, then we're going to go to Super Chats. So what do you think is the karmic effect of eating this poor black cat over here? James is about to cook it.
I'm not having Chinese food. I just ate. I had Greek food.
Okay, so I truly, and especially now that I'm breastfeeding children, I truly believe that.
Are you breastfeeding Charles too?
No, but he did try breast milk.
Oh my.
I think every single dad has tried their wife's breast milk. Anyway,
Oh, really?
yes,
Oh.
every single one of my friends that has had a baby, their husband has tried their breast milk.
They
Don't drink it; they just try it.
Oh, I would drink it. That you got to get that BDNF. The BDNF. It's.
Well, there's something archetypal about it. There's I think Young talked about.
Well, this is
relation of-
definitely
But
the
why-
funniest
why is
PTR
breast
since
milk
last time I
I'm gonna
was
have to
on.
jump off soon.
Oh, all right. So before you jump off, I just want to go into Super Chat, but also the karmic question. I think it was still kind of not really answered.
I think that if you kill an animal and it has suffered, I think the energy in the food product is very bad, and it affects your energy.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking like when it comes to some kind of a McDonald's thing where it's like one bit from, one animal and then another bit from another and so on. It's like at that point, it's just like this conglomeration of all these different animals that have been murdered in all these different ways. I mean, it's such a strange thing to think about, like what food has become today. But anyway, let us go to the
It's
super.
horrible.
It is horrible.
Like, chickens have it so bad. They're
Yeah.
so tortured. It's insane.
I mean, I know that this would be different from, let's say, the Abrahamic faith, but I could imagine a kind of temporary reincarnation for like a hell-like punishment. Somebody gets reincarnated as one of those poor chickens, in the factory farms. That's like a temporary level of hell, like, or at least that's what it feels like hell would be. But anyway, let us go to the super chats on that grim thought. Okay, ABC. Well,
Wait,
this one.
before we get to the super chats, 23 minutes ago, after I said the thing about the 1,000 subscribers, Christopher Otto was our 1,000th subscriber.
Woo!
Please
There
DM
you
Jules what alley you would like to meet in for him to suck you off and give you the sloppy toppy.
Oh, come on. Okay. Anyway, listen. Since you said subscribing, I'm going to say subscribing too. Everybody, subscribe to the Break the Rules stream right now. Do it. Do it. Do it.
If you don't, Gio will break into your house and inject you with his seed oil while you sleep, okay?
USA! USA!
Oh my
If we
god.
get enough super chats,
There
we
you
will
go.
nuke Canada, and we will specifically do it in
Thank
a way that will
God.
inconvenience Gio without killing him.
Minorly inconvenience. Yes. Okay. Next super chat. Well, this one was Effina beat me until you disfigure me. We already said that. Next one. Another one from
Very nice.
ABC. $10. All right, he's
amazing.
upping the ante, $10. All right, well, he said that too, that he retracts his recent statement. So next one, Croin Kicks, $2. USA, USA. Next one, Medium Raw, $5. Seed oils are over-socialized grease. Take the goose fat pill. Yeah, we didn't talk about the geese. Well, if Robert Seffer comes in, then we'll talk about geese. Anyway, Croin Kicks, $2. I would keep in mind that USA is number one. USA. Next one, ABC, $2. Effina, I love you in the platonic admiration form. There we go.
Bullshit. I
That's so
call
nice. I
bullshit
love
on
you
that
too.
one.
Next one over here, internet friend, to $5 Canadian. How did a dumb frog poster fool so many? Anime PFPS didn't fall for SOD for even a minute. We literally can't stop winning. Again, we already discussed this. What do you get out of the people that bring their content in? Show some fucking respect, okay? Show some respect for the people who you may not agree on everything in, who, may be promoting certain things that you're not big fans of. Who cares? If you're getting some mileage out of the content that people bring on, who are you to judge? Okay, so let's stop this purity spiral. Next, Medium Raw became a patron for $5. Thank you so much, Medium Raw, for the patronage. I appreciate it, buddy. And ABC, $5. Geo, keep diet stable. Don't restrict too much. Build muscle for a higher metabolic rate. Training and programming is key. Higher reps. Don't power lift yet. Well, I don't know, Sigma, what do you think? I mean, regarding Geo, I didn't really want to address this, unless Geo wants to, but I figure, you know what, I care about the fact that Geo is going through a transformation right now, like you were talking about before, so I figure, why not? Why not just, bring it out into the open, and, a person in Geo state, what would be the recommendation?
Yeah, my thing is, when it specifically comes to obesity, I can't imagine it being safe for a huge amount of the population to start intermittent fasting on a wide scale basis. So what would you recommend, I guess, to people who are in the category of morbid obesity, for lack of a better term?
So can you go over again, you're just trying to lose, sorry, I'm walking upstairs, just for fat loss, or also you're trying to combine some strength training? I heard, increasing metabolic rate with lifting and stuff like that. Just what is your goal?
Yeah, a little bit of both, but mostly fat loss. That would be the ideal before I can start really big into the weight training.
Yeah, strength training is going to be a big one. It'll increase, metabolic demand. More muscle will technically increase, metabolic rate. I would get
for anyone that comes to me, asking for tips, and I don't do this for a living anymore, but what I would say is get a thyroid panel done. Just make sure that you have ample amounts of T4 and T3, because that's going to be a big kicker. If your T3 is super low, sorry, it's those seed oils caught in my throat.
You could say it's dried cum. We won't judge you.
Yeah, because I find a lot of people, even on like the far left, where they're like, oh, it's not all about calories. Some people have like thyroid problems. I have to agree with that. I see a lot of morbidly obese people with really low T3, and that can be a big kicker. Calorie restriction, obviously, I already touched on.
Oh, wait, seed oil respect.
Yeah.
You got to go right now, right?
Yeah, I have to wake up in like
Ooh,
a little over 6 hours.
damn.
So.
All right, wait, before you go, is there any final thing you would like to say? Anything you would want to promote? Final message.
No, I mean, I gathered that the biggest controversy is thinking I'm like a fake shill. So if anyone has any questions, let me know. Like, I told you all, you asked about the thing, and I trust the company. Well, I trust enough not to drag them, and promote that they're talking about themselves, because I trust some of the folks that have been on the record for this stuff for a long time. And if they got swindled, that's rough. People that have been writing for Weston A. Price since 2006 or blogging about the science behind this, since 2010 and Tucker Goodrich's thing. So, yeah, if it's a big swindle, then it's going to get exposed with testing. And if and to what Sigma was saying, if this is too reductionist, if there's something else, some other compound, some other things, that's something I don't know of, and it's going to be tested and it's going to be seen. But one thing that I'm advocating for is knowing what the ingredients are. What are the fatty acid? What is the spread? What is in it? And I think that's, the more you look into that, I think the more power it gets. So, but I got to wake up. I got to go sleep. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will let the internet know that you issued a fight challenge to Raw Milk, and we will get that boxing match set up ASAP.
Yeah. All right. Sorry for interrupting you, Sigma. I just got to go to sleep.
No problem.
No problem.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you for having me. And anytime. Love to talk.
And everybody be sure to subscribe and add a like. It helps the algorithm out. Anyway, Sigma, so you were saying about the situation with Geo. I do have one question I wanted to ask there to kind of throw it in there. One thing that at least seems practical to me just from thinking about it, but maybe there's some hidden thing I'm not aware of for people who are of a more obese nature, is satiation, where supplementing with, let's say, more fat intake, like healthy fats, if we're talking about like grass-fed butter, things like that, that may help in the satiation department, so there's not going to be as much of a need for additional calories.
Yeah. I mean, satiation is a big thing. Avoid any kind of like ghrelin agonists, and you can Google that. So ghrelin is going to be your enemy in this. You don't, even if I don't know if you take any medications that could, be that, like a lot of people. I remember someone came to me and said, hey, I'm just eating all the time, whatever. And I said, you on any medications? He said, yeah, I'm on this anxiety medication called Remeron, which is the non-generic name for mirtazapine, which has like a serious impact on your ghrelin. And your ghrelin is essentially, like, you can think of it like your hunger hormone, right? And there are certain things in your diet that can agonize the ghrelin receptors and make you more hungry. Another one is blood sugar is a similar effect, where if you're roller coastering your blood sugar over and over, people tend to overeat with that kind of pattern. More satiating foods. I'll tell you, I don't know anybody that eats a large amount of meat. Like, let's just go to the full extreme, like carnivore, right? I don't know a single person that successfully did carnivore that did not lose weight. not what you do not want to eat that much. You're just feel full. Like you cannot just keep eating meat.
I could tell you a personal example with me, by the way. This was several years ago, and I know the guy is kind of shilly in certain things that he sells, but there's this dude named Dave Asprey, and I know he didn't come up with the thing, but he was the guy who popularized this bulletproof coffee, the idea that you take like the butter, put it in the coffee.
Yeah, and
Yeah, and that worked. Like I had zero craving at all for any, carbs or sugar or anything like that.
There's another one I know. I know there is a variation of like yohimbine, which I think is illegal in Canada if you're in Canada. But
Geo's in Canada.
Yeah,
But- well, maybe the alpha yohimbine is not. I don't know if you can get it prescribed. You could probably still get it anyway. I'm sure you could find it online. And it's not like it's over the counter here, obviously, but it's mostly used like if you're, and a lot of people how they use it is in the morning, and it basically antagonizes beta 2 fat cells, which are usually more like insulin prone. So it's like spike your insulin tells you to store fat. The beta 2 receptors are typically more on your midsection, so they have a higher, and so it's like the idea is that you're shifting lipolysis slightly towards those beta 2 receptors, and it makes you less hungry, and it's slightly it's a slight stimulant, not really, and some people even say it has like aphrodisiac effects. I know that's one that a lot of people use to be less hungry. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a good like dietitian for like weight loss. I typically just train or I don't train athletes, but like that was like my world forever, and so but like when I tried to lose weight, like if I was like cutting for a show and stuff, I was obviously taking certain drugs and supplements to aid in that. I mean I'm by no means have always been like the picture of health. I've used plenty of performance enhancing drugs, and stuff like that I'm knowledgeable on. But yeah, I just think maybe trying to like skip breakfast and then trying getting into like lipolysis, shifting at least. You're not going to be in full ketosis, but maybe doing even like steady state cardio, like this is what works for bodybuilders who are real. I mean, I've lost and gained 50 pounds over and over. Like I can do it in my sleep now. And most bodybuilders at my size so there is a system to it. And what I'll tell you, what I was taught, was I would get up in the morning and I would take like alpha yohimbine and like I think ketones or like raspberry ketones. You're not going to be in ketosis, and then you just do very steady state cardio, no intense cardio for like 15-30 minutes, like just like walking, right? And I don't know about clinical research on this, but I know that the bodybuilding community might as well be, because this is like they'll do anything to win. So they like if something works, they basically figure it out amongst themselves. And a lot of the things having to do with carbs and insulin and protein, these bodybuilders have known about since the 60s and 50s. I mean, they were way ahead of their time. Is that steady state cardio on a little bit of ketones and like maybe a ketone ester, and then you take some yohimbine and some black coffee or something, and then they just skip their first meal, seems to shift you into more lipolysis than you otherwise would have been, right? So I think that's a pretty easy trick that is like not gonna it's not that huge mental barrier like, oh god, I have to do that. Like I think everybody can do that, and if you can't do that, it's really like, well, then what else are you like? Are you expecting somewhere? You got to put in some work. But I know that works. That worked for me. It worked wonders. Is that steady state cardio, fasted in the morning? Just when you get up, you just walk and watch some YouTube is what I would do. And I would take like a raspberry ketone or a ketone ester with some alpha yohimbine or yohimbine, and it seemed to work for everyone I knew. And then besides that, it is just generally trying to cut calories. I mean, in a healthy way. I mean, it is calories in, calories out for most of it. That's a huge debate on people. I have not seen any compelling evidence against, like, it seems like excuses to me to say it's not. Like, you do just kind of have to. I know there's a guy, he's kind of polarizing, but you might want to look up his cookbook. It's kind of expensive, if I remember. People were roasting him for it, but in the bodybuilding circle, I think his name's Greg Doucette, and he makes like what he calls the anabolic cookbook. And the meals taste delicious, and they're satiating as fuck, but they're low calorie, and he's a good cook, and he does lower calorie meals for usually bodybuilders. I would check that out even.
And as far as we're gonna get to the rest of the super chats, but as far as the fasting, let's say not eating before working out, what I found for myself is I do have a lot of energy in the morning, in the early afternoon, even before I have breakfast. How important is it to actually have breakfast versus, let's say, getting your glycogen restored afterwards? Because the glycogen source, as far as I understand, they don't just go away like that. If you eat something, then it's gonna be there the next day.
Yeah, you can deplete a good amount of muscle glycogen on like an intense leg workout if you don't have anything before. But yeah, I think it's almost, there's two questions in there, right? Is breakfast necessary? No, of course not. Is breakfast necessary to maximize performance in the gym if you were going to work out otherwise without a meal? I tend to go with the saying, like, don't work out on empty blood. It was a term popularized by this Russian bodybuilder he's kind of a mad scientist of the industry. And I would say you don't need to, but if you're doing some serious lifting, I don't think carbs are your enemy. I do think that you're going to maximize performance with a well-digested carb meal. I don't think you want to go with like a high glycemic meal with a ton of sugar or syrup, like pancakes or anything like that. I think you get something, well-digested with some potassium and some sodium, maybe a little bit of magnesium.
But is there really a difference between, let's say, eating it several hours before versus eating it the day before? If you have some sweet potatoes for dinner,
you're gonna tap into, you're not gonna tap into your muscle glycogen first, and even before that, you'll be tapping into your liver glycogen, right? It goes back to carb loading for like a race the next day and stuff. Like, sure, but there's only so much glycogen you can store in the muscle, and I would say don't overthink it. Go with what feels the best. Honestly, I'm not a big proponent of like everything has to count. Like, what is the absolute maximum? Like, if get everything out of it. I think everybody needs to start going with what feels good. Like, I sometimes I don't like to have a big meal before my leg workouts. I feel like shit. The whole like warrior goes to war hungry and stuff like that. Sure, if you feel better, I do not think you're gonna, as long as you're eating afterwards, a sufficient amount of protein, even if you're not having carbs. The carbs may aid with the insulin spike that'll help shuttle nutrients and stuff like that, which is more anabolic. But if you just have a good meal afterwards, I do not think it's gonna like curb your performance, like for muscle gain. If you're working out on no meal, you're gonna burn muscle. I don't believe that for a fucking second.
All right, well,
it's negligible.
Well, I definitely appreciate it. Let's go back to the Super Chats. We just have a bit more Super Chats to go. Once again, if you guys are enjoying this conversation, be sure to subscribe, add a like, so on and so forth. Okay, here we go. Croin Kicks, what's your stance on crack? Is it whack?
Crack is whack.
Who are you asking?
Everybody.
Oh.
Silence.
No, but powder that resembles glycine did save a life recently. So
There we go. ABC $5. I
if you
love
want to
you.
hear more about MK Ultra Money on YouTube.
Please subscribe to MK Ultra Money after you subscribe to Break the Rules. I love you too. Is that the last bit of misogyny leaving my ontology, my innermost being?
Oh God.
I have no idea what he's talking about. All right.
And Effina said I love you too to
oh right,
BBC.
yes.
There you
Effina,
go.
what do you think of that?
I just came back. One of the babies was crying. What were you saying?
So there was a comment from ABC. I love you too. Is that the last bit of misogyny leaving my ontology, my innermost being? That was his comment to you.
I love everyone.
I love
platonically.
you too.
I only love my husband non-platonically.
Obviously, it goes without saying.
Obvious.
Yes.
You might have to
Obviously.
reinstate it for the simps, but all of us here. Geo is a simp, but besides the point.
All right, final super chat of the day, and then we're out of here.
Oh, someone asked about nicotine sigma. I wonder if chewing nicotine.
Yeah,
gums
that's
gets
the super. I was just about to say, God damn it, that's the
Oh,
super chat.
sorry, that's the super chat. I
no,
thought that was a comment. Sorry.
No, that is the super chat. Yeah, nicotine gum for weight loss, pros and cons.
Oh, for weight loss, you know what? I'm gonna have to vote yes for a quick trick. I think you obviously there's some caveats to it, but nicotine by itself is not nearly as dangerous as people think.
Yeah,
and nicotine is.
It's really not. My
Is
dad.
not, if you want a
has
good.
been-
Effina.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no,
my dad has been. My dad is 60 this year, and he's been smoking multiple packs a day since he was 19, and he hasn't gotten lung cancer. He's completely healthy. He has no issues whatsoever. So I don't think that nicotine itself is bad for you. I think it's the other garbage they put in certain cigarette brands.
Yeah. They say Japanese cigarettes are healthier for you than.
People don't even realize. If I ask, I walk up to the average person, I say, "Is nicotine a carcinogen?" They say yes, but it's not. It's one of the only things in the cigarettes that isn't a carcinogen. In fact, they've shown senescent cells, and it has a very high antioxidant effect. People don't even realize that it's a very powerful brain antioxidant. Quite frankly, I always wonder what the cancer rate would be like if nicotine wasn't in these cigarettes. There's actually a great video my friend does on nicotine. He does a whole series on them. The same guy, Leo and Longevity. He does a whole series on nicotine. It'll blow your mind. And nicotine is an acute nootropic as well. It's a very profound acute nootropic, and the threshold seems to be really high. So I would say nicotine, again, the molecule nicotine is not as bad as people think. And if it curbs your hunger, maybe try and find a brand of gum that is really just the nicotine. I don't know what else may be in it, but nicotine for curbing hunger, within reason, I don't think is the worst choice in the world. Not, for your health. I think if it's like, oh, I'm gonna go smoke a cigar or this Marlboro to not eat a meal, I don't think that's a good choice. But nicotine gum or even like snus is probably among the lower ones that I've read about in terms of risk.
Maybe I should try this. Actually,
my girlfriend is watching the stream from the living room, and then she just texted me, "Nicotine not dangerous, based," but she's constantly vaping garbage, which I think she needs to realize is not the same as just nicotine.
If you're vaping, I believe you want to look out for the one with it's like vegetable glycerol or something is one of the additives, and it's not the I don't know what the other, like, it's whatever the carrier compound is in it. I think it's the one that's vegetable and not the other one. I know where anti-seed and where is, so you take for what you will, but it seems to be.
Oh shit! Did you cut out?
He'll be back. Don't worry. There was something
I was
going
gonna say
on.
my
Go is
friend,
getting him.
our good friend Perry on Twitter. He actually was almost as big as me. He was 300 something pounds, and he's now thin as a rail. And I think he said an integral
What's your
part of
excuse, Gio?
well, an integral part of his diet was actually nicotine gum, I believe. So
Oh, really?
I wonder if that would probably, because it's funny Effina mentioned that, because my father is actually the same, turning 60 this year in December. No, not December. I'm born in December. August 13th, and he is again lifelong 2-pack a day smoker, almost 3-pack a day smoker, and yeah. So
Well, I'm glad you have a friend who's working at Pee-wee's Playhouse. For anyone who catches that reference, he said Terry. Terry like the pterodactyl. Okay, whatever. Anyway.
Moo!
What?
Moving
I
on.
didn't
Moving on.
Anyways,
Moving
maybe
on.
I should
I'm gonna
try
pretend I
nicotine. Will I
didn't
get
hear that.
addicted, though, to nicotine if I take nicotine gum?
Well, there was a comment from King Salmonfish who said that nicotine gum is going to make you pissed off at
That's good.
various things. So get ready for Dark MAGA Geo. That would be.
I don't like the idea of suppressing your appetite with nicotine, especially when it's the gum, because it has a lot of toxic ingredients in it. It's like drinking those weight loss teas and supplements, which are all garbage. I think you should find the underlying cause of why you want to eat, or why you're hungry, you're excessively hungry, and fix that issue, and it'll fix your problems. Because I had the opposite problem. I had a problem where I would not eat. Like 2 years ago, I was like 80 pounds, and I'm 5'3".
Holy shit! That's anorexic territory. Yeah.
Yes, but I wasn't anorexic because it wasn't like a conscious decision to avoid food. I just did not have an appetite, and I figured out why that was. I tried my best to fix it, and now I'm at a relatively healthy weight. I mean, when I gave birth, I lost the weight really fast because I'm breastfeeding and I wasn't eating enough, but now I'm slowly gaining weight because I have to for my milk supply.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm happy to hear that you're gaining back the weight right now. And with that, this is the end of the stream. I want to thank everybody for being here. Seed Oil Disrespector, James, Sigma, Effina, and Geo. And by the way,
Twitter has already caught on to the stream, so it's not going very well. But not for us. But
they heard me reveal what the sacrament was.
No. I mean, Seed Oil Disrespect. Anyways, it was nice of him to come on to.
Definitely. Yeah. Look,
he messaged me after he left, thanking me. So I guess my 6 million jokes I made didn't offend him too much, despite the look on his face he had when I was making them.
James just goes to out of 109 podcasts. So there you go.
Just goes to show how thick-skinned I've become
apartheid state.
over the years. Yeah, no, James could get away with it because I know where his heart lies.
Look, I love the Jewish people. No one loves Jews more than I do. Them and their tiny little hats, they're so cute.
By the way, James,
you love their tiny little
hats. You have the best Jewish accent, by the way. I love your Jewish accent.
I really do. I could be Woody Allen, or I could be your landlord. Lev, I think the first of the month just passed.
Yeah, but that's too New Yorkish. You gotta get like the.
That's crazy, James. That doesn't even sound like you.
Yeah.
Oh, when you surround yourself with a lot of landlord Americans in New York.
I feel like
the
I'm
landlord
in Israel
Americans.
right now.
What, Effina?
I feel like I'm in Israel right now.
One moment you're in Israel, and then another moment you're in a Woody Allen film. You better
well,
watch
now James just has to shove a tar and an Uzi in Effina's face to feel like she's in Israel.
Oh God, Gio.
As a Kuwaiti, I'm actually not allowed to travel to Israel. If I do, I would get investigated.
I'm also not allowed to travel to Israel, but for different reasons.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
hopefully Kuwait and Israel will make peace. But I don't want to get into that. That's a whole other discussion. Please
I
spare
hope
me
that
today.
Israel and Palestine make peace because I don't like the idea of Israelis, dying or Palestinians dying. I hope they all make peace. And
Well, right now,
I like
Fatah.
the idea of Albanians dying.
I think they both belong to Christendom, in my opinion. But that's
Good.
I think they belong
for
to
you, Gio.
Christian Western Chan.
Yeah.
Whatever. his
Well,
name is.
anyways.
All right.
Next
Anyways.
this week on Break the Rules, Israel versus Palestine. Who will win?
Oh, we still got to do that
Wow.
Patreon
I've seen
thing.
that episode before.
Well, we got to do that Patreon thing with you and your dad, Gio.
Oh,
Remember, that's still still ongoing. When his dad came
He's
in
not
the
been
room.
having a good time recently.
And it's also going to be on X videos.
Well, maybe that stream's gonna make him jolly. Like he'll get something out of that. I think he'll appreciate
he's
it.
been having a lot of problems with his shoulders. His inflammation.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, that's what I mean. Like maybe he'll get
viral
it.
thing.
Maybe he'll get his mind around. He'll be entertained. Despite the shoulder thing. Has he tried the? Has he tried the weed for the pain?
Oh no, he never would. He'll never do that, man.
No, he can't slip some edibles his way.
It's probably they said it's probably some kind of like viral arthritis or something caused by when he had a mild case of the you know what. I don't the oh my cum. But I don't know. I think it's probably he's had this before. It's probably some viral thing. I hope.
So
he's
your
starting
dad
to get
has
over
had
it
your
a bit.
cum. All right, cool. It's a confession.
The variant of "Oh my cum," James. I don't want to say it for YouTube purposes.
Thank you, Gio.
I've
See
been
how
saying
careful he
I-
is.
I
Stop,
was saying Megatron.
James.
Oh,
Okay,
Megatron,
good.
a Megatron.
Okay.
Megatron.
Yes.
There you go.
All right,
Oh,
listen.
Megatron.
Anyways.
This is over. This stream is over. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, add a
MK
like.
Ultra Money on YouTube.
Oh, and go to my
Subscribe.
Substack today. I came out with a first installment. It's called Confederacy of Shit Posters.
Nice.
It's about the E-right wing and stuff like that, and just internet culture in general. So it's on my Substack, Geo's Content Corner. But yeah, go to my YouTube. Have a bunch of Twitter Spaces we did, Giant Productions, and what's coming up next week? This week,
This week there's going to be a stream about anime, the power of anime, and that's
God!
And that's good.
Oh, you got to bring Big Beta back for it.
Oh shit! All right,
dude. Literally, when I met him last year at Bitcoin Miami, which I'm flying to tomorrow, actually for this year. I just remember in the club just talking with him and his brother about fucking Yu Yu Hakusho and Yu-Gi-Oh and Hunter x Hunter. Base as fuck.
Oh, nice.
Nothing I respect more than a fucking ripped ass Jack dude in love with anime.
Like except for certain things like Berserk, I don't know anything about anime.
Yeah, well,
Berserk?
We're gonna cover Xenogears. I mean, that's more of a video game than an anime,
but it's
it's
close.
It's an anime.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's for next week, and let's see. Yeah, maybe we can fill the room up a little bit more. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, really appreciate it.
Animes. Leave animes.
Please
No,
animes.
Xenogears is big.
Animes.
Yeah. No, Xenogears talks about like the Kabbalah and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. All right, guys, that's it. End of the stream. Thank you so much for watching.
MK Ultra Money on YouTube. Subscribe.
Mwah.